This is an SM Media production.
Things are gonna get better real soon. Yeah, I'ma just do me, you just do you. I swear it's gonna get better real soon. Don't let anyone tell you what you should do. I got a clear view. We're gonna make it soon. Just keep pushing through.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Sit Down right here on SM Media. I'm McPike, delighted to be your host as always. Got a very special guest in this episode. I'm joined by the former Aberdeen Defender Zander Diamond. Zander, it's a pleasure to welcome you onto the show. Thanks very much for joining me.
No, it's a pleasure, Scott. It's taken a bit of time to get on, but fortunate enough we managed to get a wee couple of hours in, and I'm sure it'll be a worthwhile chat.
Brilliant. How you been? How's everything been since COVID started?
Since COVID started, yeah, it's been difficult like everybody. Wife's pregnant, we got a 3-year-old. It was a 3-year-old's birthday we had, and we had to move house and stuff like that. So it's been all hands to the pump just before Christmas, but it's like anything, you know, where you were in lockdown, then you were out, and back at football, and then suddenly the restrictions came again, and you know, it's just like everybody else. We're waiting for it to sort of restart in every industry, not just football, you know. But as long as everybody's safe and well, and we kind of get this vaccine kind of put out there, and you know, we're just following protocols right, left, and centre until we get green lights to sort of go into the football field and start training.
Yeah, definitely. You started coaching kind of 1-to-1, but you're also at Queen's Park for a bit. Just what were you kind of doing before this all kind of kicked off, like coaching wise?
Yeah, well, been involved with the 16s at Queen's Park, so we just inherited a new team because the way obviously it works in Scotland, it's like somewhat like pre-seasons, like January, February. So last term we didn't really get a lot of time with the boys. So I found that kind of difficult because their development, you know, there's only so many Zoom calls and sort of activities you can do. You know, we did things where we're working on like predictions, watching games, analysing players in your position. So we're trying to get that into them as early as possible. Obviously, video analysis is an important thing in football now. So the younger they can get it into their system, then the better. So we started doing stuff like that, and then we started back a phased return. And suddenly you only play like a handful of games, if that. And then suddenly it's decision time for the boys, you know. So that sort of side wasn't nice. It's the first sort of time I've been involved where you have to speak to the boys and let them know if they're kept on or kept been released. And it's never nice telling a young boy, you know, you've just not made it. And you know, as much as anything, you want them to go away and prove you wrong. And other coaches that's made those decisions, you know, it's a reality and a harsh reality of football that only a certain percentage will make it through to the top. You know, there's teams chopping players all the time, you know, up and down the country, worldwide, and try to get that one player that's going to kind of go right through. So we keep saying them, you know, every chance they've got at training it could be their last chance. And, you know, fortunately, majority of them came through, and we've got them again, and we've got the kind of 15s from last season into the 16s. So again, similar again, we had one training session with them, a sort of feeler to the way we work at Queen's Park and at the 16s, because suddenly you're now playing for points, and it's that wee bit more competitive. The running becomes different, you know, it's more sort of tailored to football related. You know, you can do your skills and everything like that, but you've got to be fit as well, which I think is huge, and that's what we'll go into later with my business side of things. But yeah, again, we get them on the grass, get them on the Astro at Lesser. Yep, and then suddenly the restrictions happen again. So again, it's telling them, prepare yourself properly for coming back. We've had them on. So with this sort of 6-8 weeks we've had, it's pre-season for them, and telling them to write down their times and everything. And, you know, and the ones that do want it, you know, and it's even judging them on these sort of calls and their attitude towards Zoom calls, and they're doing a lot of like core work within the football club, and we watch them, we monitor them. You know, that's mixed with 16s and 18s, but you can tell, you know, even turning up early, you know, be there 10 minutes early and wait for the Zoom call to come on rather than being 2 minutes late and stuff like that. You know, it all works against, you know, stuff, that discipline that I took on board as a very, very young boy coming through, and you know, just sort of that. So preparing them for, you know, because the head of youth has said we're going to hit the ground running, i.e. games will be coming quick, because no time now to sort of prepare. So that preparation you've done or you've not done will determine what happens possibly Christmas time when the contracts again get given out. So yeah, just that side of things. You know, it was enjoyable, really enjoyable. And gradually you're getting more confident. Everything that comes with it, you know, you're learning all the time. Kids will surprise you. But I love it. The enthusiasm's there. You know, I miss it greatly. And you know, I can't wait to get back onto the field.
Brilliant. We'll touch on your career. We'll start off with your early years. Just what was it like kind of growing up in your boys club days? What were they like for you?
Best days of your life. Brilliant. You know, we grew up in a place in Dumbarton where it was all 4 high flats, 5 high flats, and you know, you could have picked a team from everyone. That's how, you know, how good it was. Out with a ball all the time. And about 30, 40 boys, you know, just running about, you know, but everybody seemed to have a ball. You know, there was never like somebody without one. So the memories of that were brilliant. You know, there was never a park empty. There was always somebody playing, and if you say, I'm going to 9 o'clock in the morning throughout the summer holidays or whatever, somebody else would be out. Then the next day you'd want to be out early, somebody else would be out. You know, it was just the common theme where everybody was out with a football and playing, and the colour, different strips and all that. Boys in Man United strips, Celtic strips, Rangers strips, you know, Nottingham Forest strip. It was just brilliant, you know, Scotland. It was just the colour and jumpers for goalposts if the bigger boys were playing, but the bigger boys were playing the pitches. However, the big boys just went, listen, why don't you come in and join us? And did it toughen you up? Possibly, you know, because you did get kicked and you gave as good as you got. You know, there was a few scuffles and it kind of toughened you up, but there was about 3 or 4 parks in about the vicinity, and I'm talking about everyone was full. You know, there'd be different groups of friends and all that, sometimes playing for trophies at different areas. But we made that up ourselves. You know, we didn't say, you know, that we needed to organise. We said we'll play like a tournament where the winner gets a trophy. You know, might be a wee trophy you've got in the house, but it just meant something for well, it was your area that won it, or your kind of high flat that won it with all the boys. So it was just fantastic, and getting out and replicating stuff. You know, looking back on it, well, with the earliest memory of the Euro, it would be Euro '92, right, in Scotland against CIS. But then that was a great, they win 3-0 already out the tournament. But that was one of the first recollections of a kind of national tournament, an international tournament. But when the World Cup in '94 came, that was unbelievable. The colour, the stadiums, the players, the strips, you know, Campos's strip, you know, like the Mexican keeper, like, unbelievable. Romario, Bebeto, you know, you're talking about Baggio, you know, just all these teams. But the thing was, everybody would watch it. Yeah. And then see within about 5-10 minutes, you'd be down the stairs and somebody was saying, did you see such and such doing that? Did you see Valderrama? Did you see Maradona? You know, it was so refreshing. And I would love to go back to that stage, because there was no pressure on you. You just went out and played with a ball, honing skills, you know, just kicking it to the cows came home, and, you know, and at night you'd be shouting in for your dinner, no, I don't want it, you know, or you'll go with it, and we'll find, you know what I mean, that's fine. There'll be an ice cream fan coming round, we'll get a bottle of juice, and still playing football all the time. And, you know, that was my first recollection. But it whetted my appetite, probably that tournament, where the stadium, the players, the atmosphere, the colour, it just said, right, brilliant. Because you're so used to watching sports scene and Scottish sport and seeing all your sort of domestic teams play. But that tournament really ignited the fire in my belly, like to say, listen, you know, why don't you go and try, not to be a professional, just try and aspire to be them, because at that age I'm not really thinking about nothing. And then suddenly my uncle, he ran an under-10s team, I was only 6 or 7, and he said, why don't you come and come here? And that's what I'm saying, we play with older boys, it wasn't an issue, just straight in, you got a strip, which was, you adored, oh, I've got a strip, and you had to look after that. It was just, you really appreciated it, and you felt important, you felt wanted, and you went, I'm part of something here, although it might just be a team, but you felt part of something, so it was great, fantastic. Brilliant.
You moved on, obviously you get scouted for Aberdeen. Just before that, like, who were some of your kind of heroes, like, growing up, like, and what team did you kind of follow when you were young?
It was probably, you know, in the 90s, with the area we were, it was a mixture, West Coast as well, Celtic, Rangers, you know, so it was either or, you know. I grew up as a Celtic supporter, which obviously everybody knows, but that's the way it was. Rangers at that time were very dominant, so to be a Celtic fan at that time wasn't the best, but you watched Paul McStay, you watched John Collins. You know, I remember going to Parkhead my first time, it was Boxing Day, I think it was 91 or 92, Dundee United, and Big Duncan Ferguson scored for United. I always remember it, you know, and that was the first sort of time going to a professional stadium and a Celtic stadium and stuff like that. But although you were a Celtic fan, Rangers were on in Europe, in the 90s, and what a team they had. Looking back, and it used to watch the Juventus and Dortmund games and stuff like that. So although you were a fan of Celtic, it never deterred you from watching. Say the other side or Rangers, if you like. It was just the more football you got, the better. Looking kind of beyond that, you probably say I love the Man United team, the 90s as well, the mid 90s. The Keanes, the Bruces, the Pallisters, Kanchelskis, Robsons. It was just a Saturday night football. Go and watch Man United play, and then, as I said, when we were out playing, the boys, the famous kind of with the laces, the lace kind of like the sharp and all that. It was iconic, and that sort of was. I wouldn't say idols, but you kind of said, when Roy Keane went there and how he bossed it and how he policed that midfield, and latterly you actually seen him when he started to really show a great interest in football, and then latterly you did play against him. However, at that time you're saying, who's this guy dominating the midfield, getting it through to Cantona and things like that. But as I said, you couldn't get enough of football. If it wasn't for a World Cup or a Euros on, it was match of the day. It was a preview, and I think it was a Friday night sports scene. It would just get as much as you can get, try and absorb it, and then try and take it out into the fields and play. Get into school. Did you see such and such? You go, I've seen it. Let's go and do it in the playground or something like that. Brilliant times.
Brilliant. How did the process come about of getting scouted for Aberdeen? Was there other clubs looking at you as well?
Yeah, at that time when you start sort of playing under 10s, under 11s, under 12s, and you kind of get whispers there's scouts there, and you can see them. And we probably do the same. When I was out scouting for Queen's Park, you get a jacket on and you can see a badge. So at the time, people say such and such is watching you up. You just kind of glance over, but they always try and be hidden, but you always see them. They always try and the scout. You know they're there. So at that time, I started off at Celtic. They did a coach called Charlie McGarvey, who later would become an English teacher, believe it or not, and had not a run in me, but we'll get to that later. And so he did the Celtic thing. A lot of boys, all the schools for Dumbarton. He was sort of Dumbarton scout with Brian Meakin and Clyde Bank. Everything came together, and then suddenly it gets wind. So then Aberdeen are sniffing, and it's like sort of that's the way it sort of goes. It's like, well, if we take you one night, can we take you another night? And that's the way the process goes. So I think it was training with Aberdeen. First of all, it was a letter to say, listen, invited to an Easter camp, and it was up at where is it? M&D's pitch. It was, I think there's a stadium there now. Is it Edu Sport or something?
Yeah,
stadium there.
Caledonian Braves.
Yeah. So we trained on there was like a wee patch of grass, and we trained there, and it must have been about 60 boys, all Aberdeen coaches and stuff like that. And then suddenly you go back, so you're training with Aberdeen in a month, and then suddenly it becomes like you're training with Aberdeen on a Monday, Celtic on a Tuesday, your own boys club on a Wednesday, and then suddenly games are coming, school football, everything like that. So it was enjoyable, to play, but everybody's always about, and I hear it nowadays, you're playing for Celtic at under 11s and all that, and playing for Aberdeen, that to me, yeah, great, but it's what you do kind of going beyond that. So then it came to a stage where you went to high school, and my English teacher was a Celtic scout. So it was a decision I had to make between Aberdeen and Celtic to schoolboy forms, really. So it was quite a simple process. I weighed it up, and that's where something had a vision, because I looked at the Aberdeen team, I looked at the Celtic team. Yeah, it's your boyhood club, but also where's the pathway for youths coming through and getting all that way. Looked at the Aberdeen team. Yeah, they might have been struggling for money, but you're looking at all the youths coming through. If Celtic were struggling at the time, they would go and buy somebody, or somebody would come in, and that's the sort of process. So to give myself the best possible chance, I said, well, why don't I give Aberdeen a chance? Because I had a touch it where I was going up Easter holidays, October week 2 Aberdeen at this time, and it whetted my appetite to get away from sort of the West Coast and get myself up there, and you can actually just hone your skills and go into Pittodrie every day and be away from home, learn how to manage your money, everything like that. So you became sort of grown up, and as I said, latterly you kind of let it mould you. So it came to where Celtic offered in Aberdeen. I don't know Celtic were, there was sort of whispers and that. So I said, no, Aberdeen. Drew Jarvie and John Ward came down to my house, and I just turned 13, and he said, listen, there's your schoolboy forms, but the hard work starts now. It starts now. You know, there's going to be a lot of distraction between now and sort of the end of your school. This isn't a form to guarantee you anything. This is a form that we've given you a small chance to come up through the holidays. You're attached to Aberdeen. However, you're still playing schools football as well. Something Celtic never did. Celtic never allowed you to play schools football for some reason. But as again, the better, the more the merrier the games came. You want to play them. You don't want to be sort of all your pals are still at school playing schools football and you're missing a game just because you signed a form. And then probably 3 or 4 years later, if you don't get kept on, that's sort of been wasted. So that was sort of, again, a thought process. So again, yeah, the pitfalls, everything that comes with it. I'd done a thing back at Queen's Park with the boys. I said, in between 13 and 17, this is, you can go one way, go the other. It's entirely up to you. It's your own responsibility. So that evening, I knew that I wanted to be really disciplined, behaviour at school, and work hard. And when an opportunity comes, and with my school work and everything, that opportunity will be there. As long as I keep progressing and keep behaving at school and keep learning at Aberdeen, when I got with the holidays, everything will be fine. But the only problem was, when I signed it that night, I had double English in the next morning. So, and the English teacher, as I said, was the Celtic scout. So I'm like, oh dear, here we go. And I went in, and he was sort of looking at me, and I always remember it, went in, homework, and he said, listen, you stay behind. Here we go. It was, my homework's up to date, everything that comes with it. I've just been warned last night, you know, to keep stuff up to date and do all your homework and schoolwork. And he said, you signed with Aberdeen last night, didn't you? And I said, yeah. And he said, how'd you know, just come and tell me? I said, well, I was sort of person, you don't want to upset people, you don't want to, you know, it's between the school and there's football, you know. And he said, listen, there's no sweat with that, you know, good luck to you and everything. I done for the next few years, and you know, still, I spoke to him and went back a few years ago to the school, and, you know, brilliant, a great guy. But again, that was the first foot on the ladder to say, do you want to be a professional? It's sacrificing between 13 and 17, depending on when you leave school. Do you really want it? Do you really want to work for it? Do you want to discipline yourself? Do you want to sacrifice?
And like your youth team days as well, just what were your kind of highlights for your youth team days before you went to first team?
Youth team, brilliant. Loved every moment of it. You know, it was a mixed bag. You know, there was Aberdonians and Glaswegians. You know, it was split right down the middle. Some days it'd be good, some days the banter would be flying, some days it wouldn't be. But just getting up there, you know, the first time I get dropped off, and on the Sunday was start training the Monday, start as a full-time player, and you need to go and get changed at the shop because you've not got a car. You've got to go and get a bus. You know, it's again discipline to make sure you get to Pittodrie for your first day and whatever subsequent. The next day you go and buy a bus pass on the Monday, so that's you guaranteed your travel. You know, small things like that mould you, and you're no excuses. You know, how much nowadays, I was stuck in a traffic jam, or that overran the time and all that. And that's what I'm saying, go back to Zoom call, be there. You know, I mean, get yourself prepared. It's up to you. That's what John Ward and Drew Jarvis said. It's up to you now. So that kind of helped me along the way. And as you said, like there was good players within the youth team, a lot older guys that helped me within it. And the first season we got to the Youth Cup final, which was good. But I nearly missed it because my own stupidity. Where we played a game, I think February or March, and I had a slight thigh injury, but I wanted to get down the road. I can't remember what reason. It must have been a birthday or something. I can't remember. And I played with some sort of deep heat on I kind of numbed my thigh. Ended up tearing it, and you know, it set me back. So suddenly you were in a Youth Cup final, but you were a race against time because you're on stupidity. So you learn very early on you need to be honest. And the injuries, and the physio said, do you know what? Seeing a wrong kind of way, you were getting down the road anyhow. You know, so you didn't need to hide it, you know, and we could have, so an injury might have been sort of a week, it was 6 weeks, I was out 6-8 weeks. And I came back in the Wednesday, and the physio gives a good running circuit, and it's really intense. And the youth team coach, Neil Cooper, said, listen, is he ready? And Sharpie went, well, for the bench. He said, no, he's going to start. But that was an inner desire. I was like, no, I'm starting, I'm ready. No this bedding in and getting a couple of minutes under your belt, not that. Determination was there to play. I wanted to play. But the worst thing was we went one each it was, and then went to extra time. It was 120 minutes. 120 minutes of pain just because the last half an hour I cramped up calves, hamstrings, everything like that. But you got yourself through it. You know, we used all our subs. There wasn't a white flag going up and saying, listen, leaving your teammates in the lurch, no chance. You were staying on there. Oh, you might have been a pass. I think I ended up front in the last 5 minutes. But it was just the sort of desire and the sheer will to stay on there and fight through it for your team. And you know, so that was great, as I said. And I was fortunate enough to make my debut in my first year on the back of that. So it was great.
Do you remember who your debut was against?
Dundee United, Tannadice, the following Saturday. So that was a Friday night, and the Saturday we went down to, there's a good story with this. We went down the road, so on the bus leaving Aberdeen to go to Perth to play the Youth Cup final, every boy from Glasgow had all their stuff. You're talking about 3 or 4 cases and their stereos and their computers all under the bus, because after that we had to go and disperse, and we were only due back to Aberdeen for, I think, the Monday and the Tuesday and the Wednesday morning, and it was to do SVQs just to sort of tick it off, and that's it, and then you're back down the road. And so the next day, I think after the Friday, the Saturday came, and it was Arsenal versus Southampton in the FA Cup final. Right. But Southampton were playing Aberdeen in the Centenary on the Tuesday night.
Right, okay.
So back up the road, and Monday you get in and train. You're just sort of really counting down the hours to get Monday ticked off, Tuesday and back down the road. But then on the Monday they said, listen, you're going to be involved on the Tuesday night in the Southampton game. So brilliant. Delighted inside. I'll just watch them on Saturday against Arsenal. Knew I've got a chance to go and play against them. Yeah, they might take their foot off the gas, but they still, when they came, there was still a strong team. You know, they were still Beattie, there was still Wayne Bridge, there was Svensons. You know, they were all there. But my sort of delight went to sort of like worry, because all my stuff was all down the road. So I had what was kind of like just a couple of tracksuits and whatever. You know what I mean? And so I was like, how am I going to get this? So you have to turn up in a collar and tie and black trousers and shoes. I had none of that, and I'm like, I don't believe this. You're getting in there and you're going to get done anyhow with like your club, because the first team boys at the time were going to slaughter you. So I had to go up the stairs and ask for a wage advance and say to them, you know, I've not got all my shirts and my ties and my suits and all done in Glasgow. I didn't know I was going to be in. Like, no worries. So the guy gave me an advance about £100 or something. I can't remember what it was. So on the morning of the game, you train. You're supposed to get home for a sleep. I wasn't. I was in Union Street trying to buy clobber. So and next, no, that way it's sort of like you're nervous. Like, oh, will that player like that? But he might slaughter me for that and all that. You know, nothing for yourself. So you end up just going straight down the middle. Black trousers, white shirt, and some sort of tie. I can't remember what tie it was. Went in. Still get slaughtered, you know what I mean? So you just still get slaughtered. So all that time spent, the nervous energy, and next, never get a sleep in the afternoon because I'm getting up and down here, and will that player like that, he's going to slaughter me, you know, just complete nonsense. But that's the way you are, do you know what I mean? You just want to blend in, but you don't blend in the first team changing room. So I went there, and then I got in the last half an hour, which was great. And then after that, Stevie Patterson or Donkey Shearer went, listen, you're staying up now because you're going to be in the squad for Saturday. So again, you're like, I've only got Clays and a suit here. You know, my tracksuit's down the road, my Aberdeen first team tracksuit's down the road as well. So that was all right. You can go to the kit man for that. I'm like, I've not got any underwear now. So I'm way back up the stairs again. I says, I need more money. So it cost me a fortune that week, but one of the best weeks of my life. You know, there was obviously in the Wednesday, all the boys were all laughing. So now we're going down to watch Celtic v Porto. They're all going down the road and having a few beers and all that, getting prepared for it. So I was up the road in a room with nothing. My telly was down the road, my computer, my DVD player, video, everything was all gone. So I'm sitting there, I think it was like with a Sony Walkman, you know, just terrible, man. Honestly, we went and watched the game and then came back in and like that, right? That full speed ahead it was to Tannadice, a good Thursday, a good Friday. And then it was like, oh, the butterflies, now you're on the phone. Oh, that's not brilliant. I'm making my debut, as I did all week, phoning my parents and all that. What have you done differently in training? Obviously, you've been training with the first team, you know, but you were so excited, and like you're saying, you need to calm yourself down, So we went into Pittodrie that morning and have your breakfast, and it wasn't until I went on the bus, you're like, right, this is real now. You know, I mean, it's really, we tasted it against Southampton, and you've been about the first team, you know how it works and all that. However, this is game day, this is match day, and it's a new firm derby, you know, big, obviously with Dundee United and Aberdeen going back to the 80s. But so we're down the road to the A90, and you know the fans are passing, the buses are passing. You get up Tannadice, top of the street, and you look down, the bus turns in, and all the crowd are there. You know, they're waiting that queuing up by. Fantastic. And butterflies, etc. I remember going out to warm up. I remember just some guy say, "Who the F's that? Who the hell's that?" You know what I mean? So you hear somebody like maybe old guy, I don't know. He played in the Youth Cup game that he played against Southampton. All right, aye. I don't effing know him. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, all right, thanks very much. You know, getting Aberdeen gear on. So I was out warming up at half time and just your usual stuff, kicking balls and all that. I get the shout for the tunnel in the corner saying, "Listen, you're going on." Phil Maguire had pulled up. Yeah, you're going on, and so suddenly adrenaline pumping and all that. Fantastic. Went on. I caught a touch of the ball, and big Jim McIntyre, who's from Dumbarton as well. Yeah. He started talking to me. And I'm like looking at him. I says, "Are you supposed to be talking to me?" You know, I was thinking as a young boy, because when you play youth football, I'm not talking to you. I don't know if it's changed now. No, you're really focused and all that. And he's like, "How you doing, big man? You all right now? Aye, you're for this part of Dumbarton, aren't you? My dad drinks for your dad, not." I'm like, "Aye, that's right, aye." So there's your mum and dad and your sister, all that up there. And I'm like, how does he know that? Because obviously it's a family section. Yeah. I'm like, aye, so it is. Whether he was trying to, there was a few theories. He was trying to put me off, could be one. Whereas two, he was trying to put me at ease, you know, because it's your debut. But it could be, again, Dumbarton people looking after each other. You know, we're quite kind of, we know each other within the area. It could be that. So there's a number of factors, but we ended up winning the game 2-0. And, you know, a fantastic day. And you kind of go home again and you go over for the summer. You're like, wow, I want more of that. Mm-hmm. You know, the crowd, the noise, the booing for the United fans, the glee and the jubilation, you know, for the Aberdeen fans. It was just unbelievable. And I was you know, I'm going to go away this summer and work even harder to get a taste of that.
And see, obviously after that, the season after that, did you feel confident you would solidify a starting spot, or was it just about keeping your place in the team and getting a more
it was a great thing it happened, because if I'd thought that getting back, then the first day would have brought me right back down there, because I was back with the youth team, with the youth team again. So it was like, if I went in big heated, and that was man management, Stevie Patterson, Donkey Shearer, Osher Williams, you know, you could have went in, you know, but you've only played 20, 30 minutes against Southampton in a non-competitive game in one half. So if I went back and I went down the road and I was like, wow, I've made it. You know, how many times have you seen a boy play a handful of games and then suddenly they maybe just dwindle away? Yeah. But I knew going away that summer, I would need to work, if not harder than I had the previous year before I went up, because I knew the standards it was to kind of get to the first team, but then it's all about staying there. So I never even looked beyond it. It whetted my appetite, as I said, but it never kind of swayed me to say, listen, that's me. I'm in the first team changing room. Nothing like that. I was back in the way changing room again, and you need to start all over again. But I thought that was a masterstroke for the coaching staff. No. He said, let's see his reaction, and then they can see it. And similar to what us as coaches now, you can see it, and you can see the sort of desire to work hard, and then suddenly one day you get told, you know, when you're getting into the first team change room, and you know, sad to leave all your boys behind in the peg that you've had, but another big opening, like this is where you want to be. And fortunate enough, I managed to stay in there for a number of years beyond that.
And then obviously your first season, you score your first goal against Kilmarnock. What was that feeling like?
It was a great feeling, because it was just after New Year. I think it was the 3rd of January against Kilmarnock at home, and fantastic. You know, you've been in the first team and playing the competitive games, as I said, and you're just out enjoying it, because at that time you're not really playing with pressure, and I must admit that, because when you're a young boy, you see a boy getting in freshness, then they end up galvanising boys round about as well. So suddenly, you know, you're just playing away, but latterly, as in my career, you get as older boys take more, obviously, burden on their shoulders, etc. But at that time, I just enjoyed my football, going out every Saturday, training all week, going out every Saturday and playing first team football. And as I say, I always remember the ball came in, and we done the ball came in. I think it was Big Samson. It was in goal, and I think I headed it for about 12 yards out. But there was a great photo I had that when the ball came in, my eyes were open, and I think some guy came in and they used that. He said, "Look, don't shut your eyes when you're heading the ball." Some people like that. But if you see a photo that's get the connection, my eyes are wide open. It was a cracking goal that I always remind Sammy when I see him. We played in the Scotland set up and everything together. But no, it was a sweet one. And as I said, the roar for that, a defender first and foremost, but to score your first goal in front of the Richard Donald stand into the crowd, and it was a good memory.
Brilliant. Obviously Rangers as well that season. You scored against them, but you also get sent off at Ibrox. What happened there? Do you remember how you get sent off?
I remember it. I remember remember playing Hearts the first game. I remember playing Inverurie Locos on a Tuesday night, and then it was my actual first team league debut against Hearts, and that was a baptism of fire. I always remember it was like Big Presley, Seve, Big Mark de Vries. It was you're talking about. Tannadice, this was brutal, man. It was like guys up against you, whack. But seasoned pros. I always remember Big Elvis. I was giving him a bit. I remember I was young, wet behind the ear, and he was just winding me up. And he said, I met him in Dubai 2 years ago, and we spoke about it, and we laugh about it now. But I was like hitting him with stuff and all. But he was just taking it and just standing like that, and he slowed his voice down, and he was just like, don't talk to your elders like that. But that was making me more sense. And I was, you learn as you go along, as you say. But then the following week, we go to Ibrox, and there's a great story behind that as well. When I signed my S form in the way back, and this is where I say to boys, never don't dream about getting to somewhere. If you visualise it, you possibly could get there. So when I was 14, we were playing in the Astrograss outside Ibrox, and it was at half time, and the Aberdeen bus came in, unknown to me. I was like, what's that? And a big commotion, obviously the history between Aberdeen and Rangers, and shouting and the banging the bus and all that. And for a split second, I took my eye off the coach, but he was saying, I just admired it. I was like, wow, that must be brilliant being on that bus. Irrespective of like the rivalry and all, just to be on that, because you'd seen, sort of European games. And I was like, this is unbelievable, this. But the noise and all that, because everybody was in watching our games. As soon as this bus came in, everybody turned and went that way towards the main doors. And I said to my mum and dad after it, I said, you know what, I would love to be on that bus. I would love to be on that. Just sample that, to see what that is. 4 years later, how was that boy coming off that bus? That's what I'm saying we got boys. Have an idea, visualise what you want to be, because if you work hard enough, possibly you could get it. You might not, but you've just got to follow that sort of, I wouldn't say it was a dream, but there's a path there for you. So anyways, so it's all, as I said, it's a small story that I use, but I think it's relevant because it's like every boy's dream is to be a footballer. How far do you want to push yourself to do that? So anyways, I came off the bus and I think I was getting my bag and I was getting a bit of abuse, and I think it was Big Russell or somebody turned to me and went like that, do you know them? I'm like, I said, no. And he said, well, you've only played kind of one first team game against Hearts. How did they know? I said, listen, Russell. I said, because Russell was obviously Aberdeen or whoever it was. I think it was an Aberdeen in there. They just didn't understand. I said, but from your West Coast, you're either blue or you're green. And I said, there's nothing in between. I said, so you're, and I remember running out and, empty stadium. And I'm like, this is absolutely fantastic. I love this. Forget about what if you're a Celtic fan, there was nothing about that. It was just like you're standing 50,000, going to be in, the noise, the colour, again, brilliant. But 4 years earlier, you were outside. Now you're inside. It's unbelievable. It still makes hairs in the back of my neck stand up. And then I was out and we got to 0-0. I wasn't well actually in the morning of the game, but I said, I'm not going to throw it to one because then people think, oh, you've got the white flag up. So, and then at half time, and it was not niche, and we kind of said, well, Rangers are going to really press us here. And the ball, the second half, Willie Young, always remember it, just over the halfway line. And I chinned Willie at sports writers for it, and he said, forget it, big man. And the ball came into Russell, and Russell took a kind of bad touch inside. And Avaladze nicked in, and I dangled a leg. There wasn't any intent, there was nothing. But you imagine 50,000 fans are back baying for blood and they want that card and all. And I just couldn't believe it. There was another photo where I'm just looking up at it in disbelief. The strip's about 4 times too big for me. And I'm just like that. But then I kind of trudged off, and you're getting it for the main stand and all that. And I went, you know what? This is. Yeah, he was sent off, of course. Moles was up front and all that. Guys like you'd watched on the telly previously. A good Rangers team. And then I remember going into the press room. I think Emerson was in there,
right?
And he was standing. I think he'd been hooked at half time or something like that. And I was like, "Geez, Brazilian here, man, brilliant." And he's like talking away, but I couldn't stop thinking, "Don't score, don't score, don't score." And then you hear those delayed pictures, bang, bang. I think we could beat 3-0 that day. Right. And you're sitting in the changing room, you're just kind of like, because for me, you'd be like, if you've let your teammates down, you get sent off and all that and everything like that. But I think Russell had held his hands up, being a proper pro that he was, and just went, "Listen, that's my fault. I'll take that one. However, you've obviously got the red card and that." So then you're thinking, "I'm going to get fined here." You're like, "Oh no," the next man say, "That's all right, holding your hands up. You're going to pay my fine if we do get it." But no, that was it. Stayed down that night, and I got a phone call from my pal. I'm like, "What is it?" He said, "By the way, you've just made me money." I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "I had money on you to get sent off." I said, "See you?" I put the phone down on him. "Oh, just raging." I said, "I don't believe you phoned to tell me that. No way." I said, "Beat it." And then boys that had Jamie Winter, who I would play with, I played with him in Scotland. But he texted me. He was a big Rangers fan. He was at Leeds at the time. We were with Scotland, and he's like, "I can't believe that. I bet you meant that." I said, "But see, Tratty, the more and more you told people, no, I didn't mean it. It was a true life. The more and more people didn't believe it. I just wanted to kick other lads, and you wanted it." I said, "No, listen, it was nothing to do with that." So you were fighting a losing battle. And I always remember going up the train on the Sunday night, that's what we used to do. Didn't drive on the flat, up the train the Sunday night with a few of the boys. The conductor came down, and then he says, "What about you getting sent off?" Because the conductor, the last train at night going up to Aberdeen, the conductor sort of knew all the boys over the years, even if you'd sort of been youth team to first team. And he's like, "What are you getting sent off for?" And I said, "I didn't mean it." "No, you gave, there must have been a Celtic, you gave them the 3 points." So that was memorable, for being on the park, off the park, fulfilling sort of from outside to inside. It was a brilliant day in a reverse sort of way.
And then you finish 11th that season, and Steve Patterson leaves. Like, what was your feeling when that happened and Jimmy Calderwood took the job?
We didn't really know. We know there were sort of stories coming out with Steve, and they're well documented that he did have a problem and stuff like that. But I never once seen that, because I was on his boots, and I used to go to his office all the time, and he just was sitting back, and really good for a young boy. Talking about man management and all that. You just throw wee one-liners in, and Donkey would be there, and I just polished my putter the day, stuff like that. I don't need my boots a day. You know what I mean? I went to Man United and stuff. It was brilliant as a young boy. Respect levels so high. One, he gave him a debut, and two, he was always good to me. You know what I mean? So to see the sort of way it ended for him, because it was like a breath of fresh air for him coming in, because they both had done well at Inverness, and just obviously off-field issues that had subsequently kind of done him in, really.
Yeah.
The team at the time, I think he had to cut budgets, so he wasn't getting the same quality of player what it had been, when Aberdeen were trying to compete with Old Firm and throwing a hell of a lots of money and, getting foreigners in and everything like that. So he probably had to go into a market where he was trusted, i.e. the first division, signed some good players like Paul Shear and Tosha, and some other ones didn't work. So one club in the city, you're always under the microscope, and especially Aberdeen, it's like a village at times, and maybe the pressure and everything off the field problems. But as I said, like, spoke to him when he left, and his book came out, read his book, managed to get a copy of that for Frank Gulfeder, and sent him a message and everything like that. I'll always be forever in debt to him. That's under no question. But good for me as a young boy, helped me kind of my pathway, gave me my debut, trusted me to stay within the team, because a lot of managers might no go with you. Maybe his hand was forced that he had to do that, or maybe he just believed in you to kind of go in progress. You'll make mistakes along the way. However, we'll deal with them. We'll just deal with them as we go along. So yeah, it was a sad ending to Steve's kind of tenure. But then Jimmy comes in, and it was. I love Jimmy to bits. Love the two of them to bits. Speak to him every other week, both of them when I can. And
brilliant.
What they did for me, you're talking about what Steve done, but the shaped me as a person, as a player, and as a man. You know what I mean? A brilliant pair. But the first sort of time we sort of know he's coming in, we get a letter through the door, and it's like your pre-season programme, and it was like 800 metres and 1500 metres. And it's like to be done in like 3 minutes and 5. And you're like, what is going on here? So first and foremost, he wanted, you know, to be fit without a shadow of doubt. If you read that, I think an alien could come down and read that and go, well, he wants to be fit. Unknown. Yeah. I didn't really know him. I knew Jimmy Nicholl, obviously with Northern Ireland, Man United, and Rangers and everything like that. But what they did at Dunfermline, I'd obviously watched Dunfermline, and they had a lot of kind of boys that had been around the SPL. So actually, Jimmy had got a good team at Dunfermline. So that was one of the things that struck me. Mm-hmm. And then I'd been at the cup final. I'd been at the Dunfermline Celtic Cup final, and they did well that day. You know, a lot of ex-Aberdonian players. You know, the Young Brothers and etc. You know, and Big Brewster up front and all that. Crawford. And so an indication was the first day, yep, we want to be fit. So we went out to the training. He came in, outlined his plans and everything. You know, there must have been about 30 boys in the changing room. And looking back on it now, that programme was designed for people who really wanted to be in his team, and other ones who never done it, who think they could just turn up and get fit as we go along. It doesn't happen like that. Nowadays, people are, you know, it's like 2 weeks off and they're back into kind of 4 weeks of conditioning training before they actually come back to pre-season. Back then, it was sort of like if you've got 8 weeks off, you just maybe do the last 3 weeks. You know, you can go on holiday and eat and drink whatever you want. But that was the first sort of time I seen, well, that's a 3 week programme before coming back. You know, I know it's all the range now.
Aye.
You know, it's going to be hard. So you come in first day and training. On about that boys are like that, and suddenly stopped at 1 minute, a minute and a half or something like that. He just says, no wonder you guys are where you are. A club the size of Aberdeen should never be in the position you're in. I said, but now I know the evidence. I'm working with some of you on this field. It's taken me a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So you're standing like statues, feeling sorry for yourself, no movement, nothing like no communication. Get it lifted within. That's me telling it mildly. Mm-hmm. You know, but in a Glaswegian accent. And suddenly the changing room started to become, there was less players coming in. Less players. It was becoming emptier and emptier, but then the quality was getting signed. The boys that he had there, he knew there was a nucleus of players, and then he added to it. You know, he added Scott Severin, he added Noel Whelan, he added, you know, just quality players that just came in and helped other ones lift it round about. You know, boys there, you know, there was, you know, McNaughton, an incredible player. He's been on record and said, Jimmy came in, breath of fresh air, you know, just an arm round you. You're a good player. You're an excellent player. Don't need all the sort of the media. Now, you get yourself right. You're playing for me. Similar to what he said to me. So you're a young boy. He took to me straight away. I took to him. Same with Jimmy. Like you work hard. You will stay in my team. Mm-hmm. You know, I've watched you for last season. I think that you can improve. Obviously, you can improve. You're 19. He said, but we can work on that. But he put Severin in front of me, you know, which was good. With Heikkinen, there was Anderson, there was Phil Maguire, there was McNaughton, there was Clark, you know, there was up front, there was, I think Derek Adams played at a stage, and Noel Whelan. It was gradually just building this team together. And, you know, that was just on the field. Off the park, the whole stadium painted, you know, standards just lifted so high. Even the small things.
And see, when obviously at that time Russell Anderson, you solidify a good partnership with him. Just how important was he for your development, and how good was he to play alongside?
Yeah, it was good. You know, that's, you know, when partnerships come, and we formed we did that the previous year as well. You know, Russell was come back with a knee injury. I remember at the cup final in 2000, and he came down with a knee injury. I think I put him out for about 9-10 months. And I was a young kid in the tunnel to get out to do your 15-second challenge. And then suddenly you're playing alongside them. So again, it's like visualization. You wouldn't have thought that, but then you visualise. We were good, but then Jimmy came in and he added to sort of protection in front of us, you know, with Severin, Heikkinen, kind of dovetailed it with McNaughton and another left back. You know, it could have been Chris Clark, it could have been, I think he went on and signed Richie Byrne at a stage. You know, he was always adding. So we had a good understanding. You know, Russell was sort of the ball player and everything like that. I was more the aggressive, where I would go and try and win everything and sort of raw and no really care anything, just try and get the job done. And so it was good in that respect. But we said there was different players all over, Treacy behind us as well. So there was, everybody had a lift and everybody felt, you know, we had a great start to that season. I think we drew 0-0 at home to Rangers, went to Tynecastle, drew 0-0. And then we won, I think, beat Dunfermline and beat somebody else. So suddenly, I think we had 5 or 6 clean sheets in a row. 5, 6 clean sheets, went to Tannadice. And I'd done my medial there, I'd done my medial at Tannadice, but it was still, he was building, you know, if we're not going to score, we're not going to lose. And we were so hard to beat. But with that, we were fit because we could keep going and keep going and keep going. So it was a good partnership. It's one of them, like, you look back and say, it helped us along the way. You know, wee pointers here and there, but you were learning all the time off basically everybody, all your seniors, really.
Yeah, the next 2 seasons you do really well. You finished 6th, then finished 3rd. Just how kind of big an achievement was that to get that far up the league, considering you were 11th 2 seasons before?
Yeah, and that's all down to the Jimmies again. You know, the next season we add again. We go and get Jamie Smith. We go and get Barry Nicholson.
Yeah,
we go and get, I think, Lee Miller. You know, I think Big Lee came in at that stage. But he's always adding, you know, and keeping the nucleus of the boys with Ricky Foster. With a good team. Then Langfield came in, you know. We're always building, never stood still. You know, he brought a few foreigners in, and, you know, from these Dutch leagues and everything that. So there was a sort of, it was like the Scottish boys, there was the Irish boys, there was the English, but, you know, it was good. He would just add to it all the time. But as you say, progress is always good, and that's what was happening at the football club. No longer were we sort of down the bottom and kind of fighting it out with kind of relegation, and this big club is down the bottom because up there the people demand it. You know, they've had their history, and you know, Aberdeen shouldn't be in that. And you always get that, the local press, we're the 3rd biggest team in Scotland, we should be 3rd, if not going for the championship and all that. You say, well, you know, to be realistic in one way. But it was good. Progress was there. Progress was off the pitch as well. You know, the stadium. That's what I mean. It's just wee things all about the place. Standards rose all the time, and it kept the players that were in the team on their toes, because they knew full well if somebody was no doing the job, somebody would be behind them ready to take their jersey. So and Jimmy, but again, you never wanted to lower your standards. You know, I would run through a big wall for Jimmy, and you know, and that's with anything. I can't credit him enough for what he's done for me.
The season after the 07-08 season, that will stick out for you for a few reasons. Russell went to Sunderland. Who came in to play alongside you that season?
There was a number. I think did Lee Mayer come in? I think Tuzani came in. I think I played with about 7 or 8 different partners that year. I think Sevi played there. Who else played? Considine played there.
Yeah.
There's another couple of foreigners that had played there. I was sort of maybe I was not doing my job, and I was getting them fired at the team. I don't know, but no, it was a great year. That, you know, I'd struggled with a few injuries. I'd hernia operations and everything like that the previous years. And, you know, a bit of dip in form as well. And that's when Jimmy, again, his man, we take you at the team. What's happening? You know, what's happening off the park? What are you doing? Are you buying a house? Why are you buying that? Are you buying a flat? You know, why are you doing things off the park? You know, stuff like that, showing a great interest, what he did with every single player. So that season, you know, you were in Europe, and that was first. We qualified. We'd worked really hard to get there. I think we beat Rangers in the last day of the season. Sevi scores a wonder goal, you know, and Stevie Lovell scores. There's another guy, adds quality, Jimmy, with Stevie. And then that season we're in Europe, and you're like, how far can you go? Did we believe we would go that far and kind of play the teams we did? Possibly no. You know, you look back and you go, wow, what a journey that was to be on. And, you know, it was just a case of, the league form took care of itself, but you wanted to sort of give your best shot at Europe. And we played Dnipro, not an unknown quantity. You know, we didn't really know much about them, and Ukrainian football and everything like that. But we got a 0-0 drop with Tawdry. And then you're saying, okay, we've not conceded, so we gave ourselves a chance. And that's all it is. All it is a chance. And we went over there. I always remember going over there, and they were quite dirty tactics the night before the game. They had flares. You know, I think they must have had every tyre in Dnipro burning. It was, the stadium was just stinking, and just smoke coming in. And I always remember they had, I think, the cheerleaders, right? And we were doing a shooting drill, going into that, and they were all behind the goal. And Jimmy's like, nah, this isn't on there. And there was reporters there that they weren't supposed to be reporters, just anything to put us off. The next minute, Jimmy's like, okay, we'll turn it, and we'll shoot down that way. Next minute, you look and see all the cheerleaders kind of running all behind that goal. Do you know what I mean? Just anything to try and put the boys off and everything like that. And that night, I had to take a couple of painkiller injections to kind of play through it. But as I said, you weren't going to kind of, it was your one shot. Fozzie goes down the left-hand side, cross it in, Daz scores, Daz Mackie scores. Now we've got something to hold on to. And, you know, for the last 45, 60 minutes, we're just peppered for pillar to post, you know. I think we kept hit the post, hit the bar. I should have scored to make it 2-0. I look back on it and I should have scored that header just before half-time. It just made it comfortable. But I think Sevy played midfield that night and he said only get 3 touches the second half. Everything was just back and forth. It was just like that. It was just waves of attack. And they scored. I think it was Conor Palanca, right? Scored for them, Ukrainian guy.
Yeah.
I think it was him, and then we're like, we need to hold on here. And that it was a big, the old sort of clock where it kind of all the wee bulbs all kind of tick off, and we're like, this clock's not moving. It's not moving. Is there a bulb? Oh, come on! And it was going round, and suddenly it got to 90, and now it goes there, and it doesn't stop. And you're like, right, what's stoppage time then? And suddenly the whistle went. I think every player just fell to their knees. You know, the adrenaline kicked in. You're thinking, oh, what a night this is going to be in the airport. You know, Jimmy got interviewed and said it was the best night ever, best career result he's had, and you know, boys are all hugging themselves. But we see when we get back to the changing room, it was like big armchairs they had, and we're just like that. We're all slumped in them. And even that to try and put us off. It wasn't a changing room, it was like a pavilion. And we're just lying like that. And boys are like, I get the music on, but I tell you, boys were absolutely knackered. And then suddenly you're like, you maybe get a drink, and then suddenly the sort of, with me, my hernias, the adrenaline wears off, on the flight home, and then suddenly you get an odd game on the Sunday. So that put us into Europe, which was unbelievable, a great achievement, because in the back of that, Celtic and Rangers had qualified as well. So suddenly knew we could do our bit for Scottish football.
And then obviously you scored against Lokomotiv Moscow, but the tie I want to touch on is the last 82 tie with Bayern Munich. Just what was it like to score against a team like Lokomotiv Moscow, and then just what was your memories of the game against Bayern Munich?
Moscow was brilliant. You know, it was great to kind of score in Europe for Aberdeen. Not many players have done that. You watch them over the years, but it was great because at Pittodrie there was Neil Simpson was always there. So and Willie Miller was always there. So you always ask them, what are the nights like? And they say, just soak it all in. You know, soak it all in. You know, the Pittodrie crowd will get behind you. Compared to a normal league game at times, there might be mumps and groans, but there's just always a change. European nights, no matter where they are, the crowd are always with you. So the first game we went to Greece and get pasted 3-0 in our Panathinaikos, like, need to play Moscow. So I think the ball comes in, and you know, just Barry Nicholson puts a great ball in, you go up and you knock it in, the roar, it feels brilliant, you know, and all the boys and then suddenly, and they scored just before half time. It was Ivanovic that scored just before half time. That knocked the stuff. He'd already agreed to go to Chelsea, just with the Russian league and all that. But that knocked the stuff in it as a wee bit. We thought we had a really foothold in the game, but it just kind of petered out. It went to, so one each it finishes, went to Madrid, get beat 2-0 over there, going on about 4 or 5. And then suddenly the way the groups kind of worked, it was we had a free night, and then suddenly the results went away, beat Copenhagen, managed to beat them, and then like you say, we go to Bayern. So the Bayern thing was just, because that the draw for the Bayern game was quite funny as well. We played the night before against Copenhagen, Pittodrie. We never sent a representative because nobody thought we would actually get through. So when we ran in, there was no link to it in Pittodrie. We had to go to the wee bowling club, a wee golf club just across the road. Right. So half the boys were still recovering and all that. Boys are all in, we're all waiting. We were the first out the hat, believe it or not. And it goes to Aberdeen, it's just an empty chair. You know, it's one of them gags, you know what I mean? It's like, well, who is it? The guy's across the road who's supposed to be there, still his office in Aberdeen. He's supposed to be, wherever it was, it might have been Switzerland or something. So just this blank chair with the wee Aberdeen bit of card. So it just showed you what maybe the directors thought. We're not paying a flight over to there because we're going to get beat out of Copenhagen. So first team out, Aberdeen, second Bayern Munich, and boys are just looking at there. You know, we're in this sort of this pub social club, whatever you want to call it, the bar, just like the surroundings are just like, we shouldn't be really sitting in here, we've just been drawn by Bayern Munich. So then the other boys come across, all right, that's us in, we're like, listen, draw us over, guys. They're like, what are you talking about? I said, we get Bayern, aye, good. And say, so we're first out the hat and we get Bayern Munich. I'm telling you, that's what it is. So suddenly, because we're playing Rangers, I think, the next day after that, because Europe was like the 20th, and then Rangers were the 22nd just before Christmas. So we didn't really have time to sort of really soak it in. That's what happens in Europe, and that's why you always say, see the teams that can keep going every 3 days, in the elite status. I think it's fantastic, and looking at that now, because the fitness that we had to have that year was unbelievable, but to try and match that by going for league titles and challenging all fronts. So Bayern Munich, remember the home ties. I snuck into Pataudry, believe it or not, the night before. Went in the players' lounge, went up and sat and watched them. I was like, wow, I'm going to be playing.
Who stood out in that team?
Oh, everybody. Seen watching them train the night before, just watching them train, you're like, Schweinsteiger and, Luca Toni, Miroslav Klose, who Big Van Boyten was there, Sanyol. You're watching them from afar. And look, I say, and then fast forward, you're in the tunnel against them. The atmosphere's on Alton top, the Turkish guy. You're playing against them, and you're just like, wow, this is unbelievable. You've watched these players, World Cups, Euros. Miroslav Klose was a Golden Boot winner in 2006 or something like that. So, and suddenly he's rocked up in Aberdeen. You're probably like, well, who are these people? So fantastic. Managed to get a 2-week draw, which I thought we deserved. I thought we deserved a bit more. I don't know if the Germans or Bayern took their kind of foot off the gas, but we thought they were there. It was a dubious penalty they got. I think Alan Mabry had gave it away. And so suddenly, we're going over there. And I remember playing at Easter Road on the Sunday before we flew out to Munich, and the press are always saying, hey, you got a chance of going over there and beating them. I think I just, and being honest, I was like, well, off record, no. You know what I mean? It's like, you need to be like, you're going to go over there and give it your best possible chance. Of course you are. But you need to be realistic. You're in Bayern's backyard.
Aye.
They've got an array of stars who they can call upon. At that time, Cruz was just a young boy. They brought Oliver Kahn back. He didn't play the first leg. They brought Lucio back. So you're like, and we always remember the night before, and we flew over there. You're driving for the airport, and you see the big stadium, lit up red, and you're like, wow, I'm going to play in there. You go the night before, it's all empty because it was a capacity because of the history between Aberdeen and Bayern. So full house it was. It wasn't half empty. Full house, the flags, unbelievable. And you come out the tunnel and it's all red. And you're like, wow, Podolski's there, and they've taken him back in again. And so the guy, you always remember, can you go over there and get something? I think Lucio took an amazing run the first 30 seconds and smashed the crossbar. You're like, this is going to be one hell of a long night. Van Bommel played as well. So it was just like, this array of stars, they just said, right, well, listen, 2 weeks, might have taken it a bit lightly, Scottish team, it's Aberdeen. Okay, we'll just go, we'll get Oliver Kahn back and all that. They must have had about 500 caps in their back line. Lucio, Kahn, Sanyol, players like that, Philip Lamb, you're just like, wow, honest to God. But no, it was a great journey we were on, and we enjoyed every moment of it. As you said, we won one game of football in Europe that year, but played 8 games. It's quite fascinating when you look at it like that.
Brilliant. You go on to the next couple of seasons, obviously one of the highlights will be scoring 2 goals against Celtic in a 4-2 win. Were you really enjoying your football at that point? Yeah,
I was. On the back of that season, we were a wee bit disappointed the way the previous season had ended, also with the Queen of South semi-final and the United one. So we're very disappointed in that. We'd played in Europe, we let ourselves down, and you know what I mean. And there's no uncertain terms that there's no excuses for that. So getting into next season, and it was to build on what we've achieved. And loved my football, loved it, because at that time again, but we had a wee slump. I always remember before we beat Celtic, we went third that day, but I was in October we were bottom. I think we were down at Falkirk, and at that time, I just signed a new contract as well the previous season within that European campaign, and it was myself, Michael Hart, Barry Nicholson, and Chris Clark, and the 3 left, and I signed because I just loved playing for. There was offers, of course, but I always remember My dad said, I think the guys get actually pelters for it when they were playing. And my old man, he said, listen, it'll be you in a few years' time. I was like, aye, no worries, not that, but it did happen. Anyways, so that season, we were October and we were bottom of the league, I think, and we're like, wow, how have we went to here? You know, second season, we were in Europe, we got everything, all the plaudits, and we started to win games of football, And that day, everybody knows that you scored 2 against Celtic, and you said you grew up supporting them and watching them, but to score 2 games, but it was quite funny because on the week leading up to it, Jimmy called me into his office and he went, listen, Zander, he said, you're putting on too much weight. You're putting on too much weight. Now, people who know me have always been really thin. You know, I just lose weight for fun, and bizarre. I've always been quite slim. I said, I don't get what you mean there, Gaffer. He's like, no, really. And your body fats have come back and they're just no good enough and all that. Nice fair comment, you know, if that's okay. So I went down to Glasgow. We had a couple of days off. Went down to Glasgow, and I was out with my old man having a few beers, just a few relaxing beers, and just talking about it, and saying about, aye, Gaffer's called me fat and all that. No, what are you talking about? That. So a couple of his mates and all that, aye, you're playing Celtic Sunday, don't you be doing that? Don't you be scoring and all that? You do this and all that. Aye, all the usual stuff you heard throughout your career, you know. If you're playing Rangers, you score against them, and then Rangers fans will say, don't you score? All the usual stuff. So we're back up, and the Sunday the day came. So when I scored the first goal, I ran away and I kind of mimicked that being a bit fat. So everybody ran down to my missus and went, wow, congratulations, and patting her on the back and all that. And my missus was like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're pregnant, aren't you? You're pregnant? He went, no. He said, Jimmy called him fat Tuesday, so it's all right, I'm okay and all that. But our mum and I had been watching it in the telly and seeing me, so next minute her phone's going, see stuff like that, and they're like, no, it was the manager. So that was all right, but it was a dubious goal because it went in, and it was when you see the header, it goes in, but Dougie McDonald had blown the whistle, but it was after it, and it was, I think, Daz had been getting pulled by Vinegar Hesselink, but I'd come round the back and put the ball in the net, so there was a wee bit of confusion. It was great, and Jimmy's kind of looking bemused, what's going on, and then suddenly the goal gets given, we all kind of celebrate, and then a couple of minutes later, Charlie puts another good ball in again, and I go and put it in. But when I put it in, always when I ran to my friends in the corner, Aberdeen fans, with his father, and his father taught me how to drive now, and had many a night out with him and all that, and dinner and all that. But him just was laughing. But I was laughing for 2 things. I was laughing because I'd scored the second goal, laughing because I was going over to his corner, and all Celtic fans were all there kind of giving you it. But I was also laughing about the guys that were sitting with my dad, because my dad was doing in Glasgow. So all the guys that were saying he shouldn't be doing that, they're all sitting. So I could actually tell who would have been shouting at the telly, who would have got him. So my dad said he never needed to put his hand in his pocket. I said, so you're taking money on the back of Celtic getting beat, you know the Rangers fans got, there you go, well done all that, well done the day and all that. But the following week we were playing Rangers, so it was flipping, you know what I mean, again. So, but there, we went into third, and after the game, we're walking in the tunnel, and Jimmy Nichols laughing, and you know, the gaffer, Calderwood, goes like that to me and says, you know what, big man, thanks very much. I've never won against Celtic, so I'm happy that you've done it for me. You know, I'm happy you've done it. And then Jimmy Nichols pipes up, he goes like, right, lads, he says, see if any one of you tomorrow come in sober, you're getting fined. You know what I mean? The naughty boys are all laughing, but that's it. You know what I mean? That was the way they were. They were just like, not taking that actually seriously. It was just like, you know, having a laugh and a joke. And Sandy Clark was there at the time, and obviously we know all their connections being Rangers fans and playing for Rangers and all that. But it was just wee jokes like that. It just helped it along, and you know, it was a good eve. It was a good day. You know what I mean? And then obviously floods of messages on your phone.
Aye, brilliant. Because when Jimmy left, obviously, and Mark McGee get the job, how did you feel about
that? I felt good. I thought in the beginning, Jimmy shouldn't. Well, at the end, I hadn't played the last few games. I had to clean up my ankle the last sort of month, and I think we're playing Hibs in the last day at Dodge. And if we win that game, we're in Europe. Yeah. So I always remember, and it was Liz Clark, Sandy's wife, and that's what happened. The way Jimmy and that set it up, it was like all the families knew each other. It was like back to Sir Alex Ferguson days where he still knows players and Christmas card and all that. It was just like Jimmy had that as well. He knew your kids, your family, your sister, your brothers and all. Brilliant. So Liz had said to me, have you heard the news? And I was like, I said, well, no, what is it? And said they get sacked on the Friday. We were playing the Sunday. I was like, no, I could feel myself welling up. She was welling up. And it was just as somebody, I had to keep it in check because people in the players' lounge, and they hadn't revealed it yet. And we always went up after the season to Richard Donald's stand and had a wee sort of a meeting and a few beers and all that. And then he announced it out, and then obviously the press are all outside and everything like that. And looking back on it now, I probably it probably hit me as hard as anything. And subsequently, the last couple of years at Pittodrie, looking back and analysing it. But at the time, I didn't realise that. I just thought, okay, he sort of moved on. And then I think I was in Mexico, and the news came through that Mark McGee had come in. I was saying, brilliant, new ideas, fresh ideas, and see what it's about. Same dedication, everything. New manager comes in. The club's obviously wanting to go in a different direction. It gave its reasons, and we'll see what happens. And I was still sort of suffering a wee bit. When I met Mark the first day or two, he'd say, listen, we want to sort of build a team around you, etc. At that time, I had a couple of niggles, I had a couple of offers to sort of go elsewhere. I was still 2 years of my contract at the time.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like, I wouldn't say I was thinking about leaving, there were just offers there. But the offers that were on to go, they wanted to see you playing because of your ankle injury. It was like the way the English League work, they start later. We were sort of first, we were a few weeks ahead of them. So I missed a lot of pre-season, missed the Sigma game where we get knocked out and one of Aberdeen's heaviest defeats, so didn't play in any of the legs. And then it was sort of a rush job back to play Celtic, in the first day of the season. The way the fixtures were, I think Mark had said, he was in for the Celtic job. Tony Mowbray got it, and Aberdeen was obviously the second choice. And the way the fixture computer comes up, it was always going to be happening. I remember getting up, we were okay, and then I get concussed mid-air, I get smacked by a head and then fell down, and I kind of came into the ground with my ankle, and kind of broke my other ankle. At the time, didn't know, because everybody was focused on the head and the concussion side of things, and I tried to get out and I was walking, there was something not right with my ankle here, there was just something not right. Twice I tried to come back on rehab, and it kept breaking down. And then we got to the bottom of it. We had to go to Stirling with Gordon Mackay, the famous surgeon, a good surgeon in the West Coast. And, it was like an acute bone in the back of my Achilles that was just fraying, and obviously going in the back of the Achilles with any operation, everything like that. So I had to get operated on again on my opposite ankle, on my other ankle. Got that done. Yeah, the team was struggling. You can't do anything about it. Sort of the teams that were in for you, well, you're injured now. Well, not going to come in for you, because irrelevant. And we get to Christmas, and I was kind of got myself back, got to rehab. Took about, a good kind of 6-8 weeks to sort of really diagnose where the actual injury was. So it was a long time out to get it diagnosed. And then obviously the rehab and the operations, everything. And I got myself back, and I was training. I always remember, training. First day back at training, Nicky Clark had banged me, and it hit my nose. Just banged me, hit my nose, and suddenly I broke my nose. This was at Christmas, and it was fraying, it was blood, and it was just losing blood in my body, and it was just a hellish time. So I had to go and get an operation just on the 23rd of December to get my nose fixed. It was just a hell of a year. If you actually think there's 3 operations within that 1 year, and new managers came in, the team's sort of struggling because of that. You've grown up in the city, you've grown up as a young boy through the ranks. Yeah, almost like it's your team now. It's There's a real affiliation with them, and you're sitting there, you're sitting in a stand, just helpless basically. And then the clock strikes midnight, and I said, okay, we'll get that year away, and we'll try and hit the ground running. So rehab again, everything like that. So I never probably started another game. I think it was to the February or something like that, maybe early March, and at that time we were in the bottom 6, and the games are just, at that time, did we have the players, probably players that have not been used to in a dogfight battle? Hamilton seemed to do it every year because they're tried and tested, they know it. Suddenly we went into that level, we didn't know how to deal with it, and it became, the season sort of petters out, and then I'm suddenly into 1 year left in my contract, and you go away, and suddenly, well, teams probably wait for you or etc. But at that time, there was a whole range of emotions. I lost a lot of form. Probably I probably had to sort of take a step back because my injuries weren't clearing up. I wasn't fit enough because I was getting rushed back. So there was a combination. Jimmy not being there, You know, it was just like, you know, suddenly your sort of comfort blanket or somebody to go and see. I'm not saying Mark and Scott weren't approachable, because they certainly were. They just weren't in a way that I was used to with Jimmy and Jimmy Nichol and stuff like that, and Sandy. So sort out advice and everything like that for them. But then suddenly the new season starts and we win 4-0 against Hamilton. Paul Hartley gets a hat-trick, I scored one, and suddenly we're off and running again. Have we turned a corner?
Yeah.
The proof was sort of later in the months, wasn't it?
Aye, the game that will probably stick out to you was the game at Parkhead. Like, was that obviously finished 9-0? Was that the worst game you can remember? And just what went wrong that day?
I think everything went wrong. I think if you actually look at our team, it was quite a young team.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, obviously you're talking about senior players and all that. So your senior player, you've been around a bit. So I was what, 24 at the time. You know, you would Ryan Jack in there. I think with Clark Robertson, with Chris Maguire, with Josh McGuinness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Paul Hartley gets sent off. Paul Hartley gets sent off at I can't remember, at 1-0 or 2-0.
Right.
Everything that Celtic hit went in. Everything that we blocked ricocheted to them. You know, it was just a case of we just weren't. This Celtic were ruthless, probably really, really ruthless. You know, they get 2 penalties. There was decision making within the game that probably players would never do again. You know, you look at Chrissy Maguire passes the ball square, and Celtic, I think Stokesy just puts it in. You know, just things like that. Ball goes over my head and it's a tap into the back for Hooper and all that. It was just wee things like that. But at the time, as I said, I was struggling with form. You know, you're not going to go to a manager and go, listen, by the way, I'm struggling. I need to be removed for the team. That's no for me. I want to play every single game for Aberdeen, and every single game if I can contribute. But at that time, I know myself I wasn't performing to my standard. And it's like people can say, you need to get back to basics. So how do we get back to basics? This is what I'm trying to now figure out as coaching. You know, you do the simple things, of course you do. But you need everybody as well. You know, you 10 men at Celtic Park, they were on it that day with a young team. What are they feeling? You know, there was so many different kind of, what could you say, to it? Different combinations that led to our downfall within that game. People will look back on it and they go, well, he was a Celtic fan. He allowed the goals. You know, don't talk utter tripe. You know, that was another thing that get labelled to me, went into the press afterwards. And I think the boy had said to me, he said, I think the ball came back and I chested it back. I think one of the reporters had said, did you not think about putting the ball in to make it 10? And I think I walked out, or I said, I refused to answer that question. I think I said, well, I gave him a bit back. I can't remember who it was. I said, what a bad question to ask. You know, but we were hurting. Don't get me wrong, we were hurting. And as I said, we dust ourselves down. You need to get on with it. You know, with an odd game the next, I think 4 days later against Inverness. So, yes, it was 9-0. And I get what Mark McGee says. I do get it, but also the context. Mark says, listen, it's only 3 points, right? That's what he said to us, but obviously, I think he said it out with. I get what he says. I get what he says about that, but it's obviously the humiliation and everything like that. It comes with it. I get his thinking, but also you also need to look at the grand scale of things, and you know the pressure are ready to jump down your throat. So that didn't really, you know, the combination of even Mark saying probably about wanting to be a Celtic manager, and then the Sigma game, you know, the defeats for that the previous year. There was fallout with the fans, and then we're going to get pasted 9-0. You know, there was a combination of things, and it became sort of toxic. You know, some of the abuse he received was unfair and unjust, totally. But, you know, people say, well, they're entitled to say that. Some of the things that you sort of heard at Pittodrie getting shouted at was just not nice at all. Yeah, we were struggling, but you just don't do that. You don't do that. You know, this is a day and age where, you know, we're talking about being kind, but way back then it was still the exact same, you know. So I felt for him. I really did. But obviously the results dictate, and, you know, he moved on.
Yeah, and obviously Mark McGee kind of pays for his job with that kind of result, but Craig Brown comes in. How excited are you to work with him?
Brilliant. I remember Neil Cooper and Paul Hartley actually took the team at Tynecastle, and Craig and Archie had come in, and I'd worked with Archie in the Scotland under 21s. So I kind of knew his sort of makeup, and everybody sort of knows who knows Archie, you know what I mean? He's sort of old school, and I love that. I love the old school side of things. He'd been there, he'd probably put a few against the dressing room walls at Pittodrie, in his first time, but he got that team, obviously the famous team of the Gothenburg greats and everything that comes with that. So he's walking back in, probably seen a club that's in a demise again. Similar when Jimmy walked in, how do we lift this group of players? Because in a way, you don't become bad players overnight. There certain factors will dictate how your career goes and whatever. It could be bad luck. It could be sort of just things just don't come off for you. So he came in and we get bang with battered 5-0 at Tynecastle, and I always remember a supporter outside, and the true fans, he's like, listen, Zander, please don't let this club go down. Don't let it go down. Because we couldn't get out of the rut we were in, and then suddenly we started. I think we went to Hamilton, we beat Hamilton, and suddenly they started to put factors and how to sort of win games of football, be ruthless. Archie Craig was sort of like the nice guy, and he would talk to you, and a really nice gentleman, nice to be in his company. It was, he'd led obviously Scotland at that time to their last major. And sit and listen to him, brilliant. But Archie was sort of like really on it. He cornered me in the first day and he said, listen, your standards have got to improve. I said, well, I totally agree with that, but, I'm trying. There's nothing you can really do. You know what I mean? He said, well, keep going at it. I said, no, that was that wee sort of, I'm marking your card here, but I know you can do it. It was man management. Archie's been second to none with man management over the years. So just that wee sort of, and that gives you that wee sort of energizer. And then suddenly, we play Celtic in 3 games in about 8 days or something like that, 2 semi-finals, a league game. And, we'd just been, every time they came around, it was a 9-0 game, it get reference. Just it always seemed to be Celtic we got in the semi-finals. There was never another club, it was Celtic. That season, it would just be forever. Celtic were just playing Aberdeen all the time and take that X amount of goals off them, etc. So it was good. I love Craig's company. I'm very honest with him from the get-go with him, and he was very honest with me as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's obviously your last season, and you leave at the end of that kind of contract talks as well. How do you look back on your time at Aberdeen?
I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I knew sort of towards the end there was sort of the crowd had turned, and no longer they were by your side. If you look at they started using things. I'm not saying the majority of them, 100% fantastic. You know what I mean? There's always a minority that will always say, well, he meant it against Celtic to get beat 9-0. Say, well, these are the same fans that cheered and was off for you when you scored 2 against them. So how does that work and all that? So it was different things were getting used against you for their own sort of leverage and everything like that. And then suddenly the Hearts thing had broke that, I wasn't signing a new contract because, like I said, I'd been honest with Craig and they were offering me a new contract.
Yeah.
And the contract was there. Craig was quite open about that. But I said to him, I need to move. I said, I just have to move out with the city to a new club. If it's a new club within Scotland, great. If it's out down to England, even better. But I said, even if we win 2 cup finals and win the league, I know we're a wee bit exaggerating. I said, I still won't be staying. I said, I need to go. I said, I'm stagnating. I'm not enjoying my football, first and foremost. Privately, we couldn't, me and my wife now, Mrs. We couldn't enjoy. We're off the park, going for meals, etc., like that. And there was a lot of factors again, and suddenly people were supportive and all that. Suddenly now it was, and I referenced my friend who's a staunch Aberdeen fan. Even he started to I'd speak to boys, he'd known fans. Now actually, listen, yeah, Brett, I'm a fan as well. We're all hurting. There's times and places and everything like that. You're playing a game of snooker, people are coming over having a go at you, and you're just like, relax. But that's what happens with the one club within the city. They think they've got a right to come up, and supporters in general. But I said, I've got to be happy with it. I went in there as a 10-year-old and left at 26. 16 years at a football club. All the way through, seeing the highs, the lows, the European football. The group stages, just probably look back and say, could we not have got to a cup final? That's probably the one lingering thought. As for Jimmy and for when we were Craig and Archie, just to get to a cup final, just to sample it, get the fans down and see what it's about. Because we'd had enough opportunities to do that. We just ultimately failed. And I think that's where maybe the club wanted Jimmy to kind of go, because they wanted somebody in to kind of take us to that next step. It didn't really happen until Dell came in.
Yeah.
But I look back on it fondly. As I said, the turning point was we played at Tannadice, and where it started, and it sort of kind of ended in my mind that I think I went up for a header and I get smacked with an elbow and I burst here, so just like absolutely blood pouring.
Yeah.
And there was like a section of the supporters that had cheered it. I'm running down the touchline. So that same touchline that I did when I was an 18-year-old coming on, I was now going down there at 26 and they were cheering you because you'd hurt yourself. Now, and I went home that night and I went, I think that's the final sort of straw there. You know, if my mind was not made up, it was made up, but that actually rubber stamped it. And you know, I just said I need out of there and kind of move on and get out, reignite your own career for your own self. You know, you could have stayed there for another couple of years and just sat there and be one of them part of the furniture. But no, I wanted a wee bit of freshness to reignite myself again.
And were you keen to try England, and is that why you chose Oldham?
Was that, sorry?
Were you keen to try England, and was that why you chose Oldham?
Yeah, no, when it's well documented, I spoke to Hearts and they tabled an offer. They tabled an offer, but it just happened that they weren't too happy with what showed up in the scan report. So that's fine. You move on. And you know, as I said, I'd played over 100 games after hip operation, so there was no problem there. But it cut a long story short, yeah. So again, you're in the summer, and I remember training with wee Desi Young, and we were training, and I think Desi, I don't know if Desi was still there, and I think he'd been released, and I'd obviously left my own fruition. And two were like, wow, you know, suddenly you were so secure in contracts and all that, you're like, you know, that's the first ever time in my whole career. But then Paul Dickoff phoned me. And I'd seen Paul with the Scotland set up and everything like that. He was with the first team, and he said, "Why don't you come down and try Oldham?"
Yeah.
Why not? Do you know what I mean? So straight down to Manchester, stayed in Manchester up to Oldham. And within a couple of days, Paul had said, "Listen, we want to sign you. You know, get the formalities done, sell your house, everything you got to do up in Aberdeen. We will wait on you." Says because, and that was the fire back in my belly. It was like get in there. Tried and tested, proving yourself to these players that you're coming down from Scotland to sort of play, and you're not just going to be one of these players that's just down for 1 year or whatever. I wanted to come down and prove myself. Paul, a couple of days, listen, you're signing. So that was great. We got an apartment in Manchester, and then suddenly, when I was doing in trial, you're sitting having a coffee, reading the papers, nobody noticed you. That was the breath of fresh air even as well. You're relaxed off the park, and nobody noticed you. Whereas in Aberdeen, you couldn't do that. You couldn't have your coffee, couldn't have your, you know, a meal and all that. So suddenly now it was a wee bit of living space again, a wee bit of air. There wasn't suffocation or anything like that. Me and the missus moved down, got an apartment in Manchester, and loved it. We should have stayed that longer, but there was obviously contract things, but loved every moment of that.
And then obviously you move on to Burton Albion. Was you excited to work with Gary Rowett when you went there?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, Gary, again, you know, what he's done for his career, you know, Derby, Birmingham, you know, Stoke. I remember the contractual thing happened at Oldham where they couldn't honour your agreement. If you'd played 30 games, 30 starts, then you'll get an automatic year again. So suddenly I'd started 29, and then Paul Dickoff, brilliant, honest guy, he just said, "Listen, I can't start you because we can't honour your contract." Paul didn't need to do that, but really honest, you know, and said, "Listen, you don't need to come into train if you don't want to, because it's no right for what they're doing. It's the club side of it." But I went in, trained, and there was a good array of boys in there, and so went up the road, and I was like, you know, I want to stay down in England. I want to stay. Got the call for Gary, and he said, like, "Why don't you come down to the training ground?" Okay, back down the M6 again. Me and the missus back down again. And past Manchester, I was further on down Stoke across the Derby, and I'm like, right, well, where are we going through that? Right, the next minute, this is England's training ground here, right? And then like this must be a rank place. I went, Gary was standing there. How you doing? I was like, is this the training ground? He went, aye. So at that time, just built it, 120 million. England FA said, I reuse this. And I'm like, no way. This is the only time I'd been at Aberdeen, we never had a training ground. You know, it was strange. We're the third best force in Scotland, never had a training ground. So suddenly now you're going somewhere, you know, the pitch is immaculate, the facilities within it, you know, all the recovery stuff, all the pitches, you know, the wee groundsman was a wee Scottish guy, all right, biggie and all that. He was a Rangers supporter, all right, big man now, that bit really warm, do you know what I mean? That's obviously about the Scots. A Scottishman will always find a Scottishman somewhere. And went in, and he said, we're here all the time. Because they had some sort of lease with the English FA, the younger teams would play at Burton, they would use that. We'd use that all the time. So suddenly you're like, every single day you're coming in here, immaculate. And I say we had a very successful season that year with Gary. Gary had moulded I was one of his first signings. Again, built a team round, made us captain, and we reached the playoffs against a very good Bradford team that, if they'd a good run.
Was that the season they got to the final, aye?
Yeah, and that's what they always say, they always say within the leagues, there's always one team. See, at that time when they were in the League Cup, and they were beating Arsenal and beating Villa and teams like that, you were like, but they're struggling in the league. They're struggling in the league. How can that be, And then suddenly they played Swansea and they get knocked out, and then suddenly see that momentum they got. You started to see them coming up the table, and we just lost it to a Steve Evans Rotherham team that they finished third. I think we finished a point behind them or 2 points behind them, and we'd beat Rotherham twice that season and with the best home record out at all 4 divisions down there. I think we played 23 games at home and won 20, drew 1 and lost 2. And with the best home record, then we went into the playoffs and 4th v 7th. It was they just snuck in at the last game, and we're like, hard team to beat. Went to Valley Parade or what it's called now. I don't know. They rename these stadiums now. And then we beat them there. We turned them over in their own backyard. Beat them 3-2. I played a sitting role that night, so I was going up against the boy Hansen, who was just in that. Gary played me in that role, and looking back, it was a good one because he said, like, you go and compete with him, because if you play at centre back, we're breaking the lines. He'll low average would suggest he can go. See now, he'll keep a 4 and you sit as a 1. See every ball, you go and compete against him, and I enjoyed that. I loved that. Going and compete against, put him off his game, nudge him and all that. And we got the job done, and we're playing them 4 days later at our stadium, and we're like, incredible home record we had all year. We beat them at home as well, and we get beat just at the final bit. But their momentum, they went on and won it. Went on it and get promoted, beat a Northampton team, which I would go to Nick the following year. But you're just like, they had that momentum, and fair play to them, they deserved it. But it just shows you that you've got to be on your game all the time. But Gary that day changed his tactics, went back to a flat back 4, trying to accommodate players, and he spoke about that. You're like, so with a 4-1-4-1 kind of at Valley Parade, where we nullified Hansen, and then we went to a straight back 4. And suddenly, and the Pirelli Stadium's quite tight. All it takes is one slip, and he heads it on and things like that. So yeah, it was a sore one to take, but probably a good achievement for a club the size of Burton Albion. Probably unknown to me, with all due respect, in the very beginning when Burton Albion came calling. I had not a clue. If you're asking me to be honest, I didn't know who they were. They'd obviously Nigel Clough had been there previous, and Gary had taken over when Paul Pescadino had left. So he got a team up and running. And everybody now knows who Burton Albion are just now. So yeah, it was a good first season down there, and thoroughly enjoyed that.
The second season, you make the playoff final. You get to play at Wembley against Fleetwood. What was the memories of that game, and how disappointing was it to lose it?
Well, I shouldn't have been playing. This is an honour. It's a great story. We were laughing. I think I was talking about that. It was a quiz question because I was already signed for Northampton.
Right.
I played for Burton Albion. So that season, went to New York after that season, and stupidly enough, wore flat soles, wore Converse, and came back. My plantar fascia was absolutely done in. So missed the first part of the pre-season plus a few games, and then suddenly Gary had added to the team and got a bit of experience in, and then I was playing, but then he became a wee bit. I'm not really happy with this. I want to play. So Gary said, "Listen, it's up to yourself. You want to wait about." No, my agent had been on the phone saying, "Listen, what's happening?" and get out and play. So one day, took a call. Chris Wilder had phoned. He'd just taken over at Northampton from Oxford, and Oxford were third in the league at that time, and Northampton were bottom. This is the same Northampton team that were in the playoffs against Bradford. So you're talking about the hangover again from the following season. So he phoned me and said, "Listen, you're not playing at Burton." He said, "There's 16 games to go here. I've just moved from Oxford, who were third." He said, "I think Northampton, they're going places, but we need to solidify the league status." You looked at the table and you're like, 8 points adrift. 8 points adrift. You're like, with 16 games to go, which it's a hell of a job. If you've not won a lot of games of football to now, what now? So went down there, spoke to Gary. I said, listen, I'm going to go down and try it. And Chris had said, listen, come down and enjoy it. So we played 3 games in a week. Went in, met my teammates on the Friday, thrust into it on the Saturday. Managed to win 2-0 at home. And then we won 2-1. I think we beat Hartlepool 2-0 at home. Then we beat who was it? I can't remember, on the Tuesday night, beat them 2-1. And then we drew against Bristol Rovers. David Clarkson was up front and all that. The saying Scottish are always standing and talking. That's another thing about going down to England. You can stand and talk and have a freshness. Nobody really bothers or what you doing talking to him and stuff like that. You know, it was just genuine boys. That we'd all known each other. But if a Motherwell Aberdeen game had happened, there's a fight and all that, so you shouldn't be taught. It's just nonsense. So anyways, 7 points in a week, so we're like, you know, suddenly, but the problem was, see, every time we win games, other teams are winning, so we're suddenly like, oh, come on, you know, you were, and then I think 7 or 8 games we'd won and drew and all that, so it was a good kind of start to it, and then we kind of hit a wee lull patch, and, you know, it kind of like, Chris had said to me, he said, listen, if we stay up, I want you to sign permanently, whether we stay up or not. Now, to me, I'm thinking, I want to stay up. I'm not signing getting into conference. There's no way of that. You know, I'm not thinking about that. So so we got to the last 2 weeks of the season. He's like, you thinking about it? And I said, no, I just want to get the team kind of safe. You know, we'd suddenly, the 2 weeks to go to the end of the season, second last game, we win at Dagenham, and Ivan Toney scores a couple. And suddenly, we're at the bottom 2. I think that was the longest run a club's ever been in the bottom 2. It was just, they couldn't get out of it. So that was you're talking about, whenever they went into it to the second last day, but it was a record, and you're like, wow. So we get out of it, and then suddenly, again, fixtures, we play Oxford at home, Chris's old team. They had slipped down to about 10 for something in the league. So it just showed you what his, and what he did with Sheffield United, but what he had at Oxford. He sort of came to Northampton. So we were going like that, and they were coming down as well. So magnet, everything, and all that. You're thinking in your mind, win this game, you're getting a new contract, everything, you know, the pressure. I was getting married and stuff like that. You're like, oh, you know, everything, you're like, and then suddenly they score after about 5 minutes. You're like, no, we drop into the bottom 2. No, great for the neutral, because they're all watching it in Sky Sports and all that. So suddenly, and then we ended up winning the game 3-1 after the game. Jubilation, Northampton fans all on, kissing you, hugging you. Thanks very much. You've helped us, but you see what it means to supporters. You know, players come and go. You know, every football club players come and go, but you see these fans crying and all. That's their livelihoods. That's their club. And so you played a small part. So when we had a wee night out on a Saturday night, went up the road on the Sunday. Excellent. Chris phones me on the Monday morning about 6:30, 7:15 in the morning. I was like, oh, what's happening? I haven't done anything in the night out. What's going on? We're giving you a 3-year contract. Do you want to sign? I'm like, do right. I said, I'll be down there tomorrow. So went down, signed everything. Burton Albion had said, listen, you can go up there, go to Scotland. You've signed your contract in Northampton. Well done for your time at Burton and all that. But you'll not play again here. We've got our team for the playoffs. Play. Got to Scotland, got my golf clubs, going up to relax. Went obviously celebrating a new contract. I think I was out on the Thursday, the Friday, and the Saturday. The sports writers on the Sunday. Burton were playing Southend on the Sunday. So Sunday, you're just sort of like,
that was the semi-final, right?
That's right, aye. So you've got the sports writers at night. You're watching the Burton game at 12 o'clock. I'm like, obviously a bit worse for wear for having like 2 or 3 days out. But you're celebrating your new contract and sort of the magnitude of what you've achieved at Northampton to keep their status and everything like that. But just really chilled out, and I think big centre back gets sent off, and I'm like, nah, surely no. And my dad turned to me and he said, listen, you might get a phone call tonight. I said, nah. I said, I've been told I'll only be playing again. He says, I've got my golf clubs. I'll be at the golf course next couple of days and etc. So went to sports just about to go to the sports writers. I got a message for Gary. By the way, you're due back to Burton on Tuesday. I was like, oh, no. I went to sports writers, had a water all night. My agent's like, what's going on? All the boys, you know what I mean? They're all like, what are you doing? All that, I haven't got a drink in. I can't. I'm going to do it Derby. We stayed in Derby at the time, back down the road, and that was me. So sat on the bench for the semi-final, second leg, managed to get through. Burton fans were fantastic. I hadn't seen them because I had moved on, and then got to the final. And I remember Gary phoned us on a day before going down to Wembley. He said, no, 2 days before Wembley, he said, can I trust you if I put you on? I said, well, you know my makeup. You wouldn't have signed me way back. Whatever's happened between the football club and it's nothing between me and you. It's like,
Aye.
you know, I'm professional. I've signed a contract in Northampton, but if you're going to think that I'm going to take the foot off the gas for Burton Albion, I'll be happy to help you, you know, get promoted and all that. I says, whatever. And then ended up coming on for half an hour. Yeah, we get beat, but you were involved in it. He trusted you, put you on, you know, and, you know, he was a great manager to work under, a great coach, big in his fitness, something that I was always big on. And yeah, very, very good. And as you said, his careers went from strength to strength with the clubs that he's kind of ticked off.
Yeah, definitely. You move on to Northampton, as you say, in your first season you finished 12th, but the season after you won the league. Just how much was Chris Wilder kind of the reason for that, and how good was he? Could you see he would go on and do as well as he has?
The easy answer to that would be yeah, but at the time you don't. It's similar to Gary, you know.
Yeah.
I would I have thought he'd have went to Derby, Stoke, Millwall, you know, Birmingham? Possibly not, because you don't know how, if they get a club, then you don't know how they get on. But with Chris, you kind of, it's similar to Jimmy Calderwood in a way, old school methods to try and get to the players to their peak performance. Hard work, you know, a togetherness, a unit, hard to beat. Chris used to say, if we, for both boxes from tee to green, he wasn't caring about pretty football. For tee to green at a golf course, get the ball up the park and try and score, get it away for goal, you know, no this pretty stuff and all that. We'll keep attacking. You've seen that with Sheffield United team. You know, not so much this season. Last season, they were a breath of fresh air in that league. Fullbacks overlapping fullbacks, centre backs going beyond centre mids. You know, that was the way it was. You know, it was, if they scored one, we'll try and score two. You know what I mean? We don't want them to score one, however. But we on that, he came in the first that year and said he signed another couple of good players, but it was almost like the excess from the previous year that had sort of been the slumps. In the playoff final, beat off Bradford, so they were sort of like, they were nearly there, but they just never got there. So suddenly he starts trimming the squad, bringing quality in rather than quantity. Then became a really tight unit, and we had to be a tight unit because we weren't getting paid. Twice we never get paid, and the second time that was when it was really hit home, that because the club was under investigation for the stand, £12 million went missing or something like that to regenerate Northampton and the stadium. And so that time we were getting paid off the PFA. Sometimes the club would be late getting in, but it was it was the staff, the manager, the kit men, the physio. They weren't getting paid. We obviously in the union down there. Yeah. So we were getting more money. They weren't. So it was months dragging on. When's this buyer? And there's a great, I always say to people get interviewed, there's a great speech on YouTube. Chris is at Notts County, and we were winning games of football. We kept winning. And he said, listen, he knows who the buyer was. And it was the guy who he was at Oxford with, Kelvin Thomas, a great guy. And he said, there's a deal on the table to be made, you know, just transfer it across. But there's no just that, it's not a rescue package. There's a deal and there's more. You know, this is just no coming in and then it all stops. They'll be adding to it. There'll be funds there to get better players, to get facilities upgraded, everything like that. So it went to the 11th hour, believe it or not. You know, it was really, really, that's how bad it got. And we as players, I was in Derby, I stayed in Derby at the time, and when you live in the area, you were going about, when you walked about in Northampton, like maybe after training for a coffee, or what's happened to the club, what's happened, the club was getting raided for files, stuff like that. It was just like, it became real, and then suddenly the club was going to the wall. So suddenly Kelvin comes in, gets the club back, pays off all the debts, has a big meeting, said, listen, the boys, all we could do was keep winning games, that's all. So staff gets paid and all that. Went on another run, and we get beat off Portsmouth, I think, just before Christmas, beat 2-1. And then again, we never lost a game of football after that, for that whole season. Never lost a game. We broke every record that league could have did, I think, with most away wins, most clean sheets, most goals, the winning streak. You know, everybody, I always remember, you know, even talking about it now brings back so much fond memories. Remember we went to Plymouth on a Tuesday night, going down, and they were top of the league, and we were 49 points, they were 52, and we beat them down there, turned them all. James Collins came in, John Marquis came in, added to our strike force, and just galvanises even more. You know, as in Chris knows the market really well. Look at the two guys doing well at Luton, doing well, you know, at Portsmouth again, brilliant. So started winning games, and then suddenly we were just ticking games off. You know, we never knew when we were beaten, never knew when a game was lost. You know, we'd always go the full way. If we win the game, if 1-0, that's right. We dig in as a team. You know, if it's we went to Dagenham, went to Stevenage, 2-0 down after about 15 minutes. Ended up winning the game 3-2 in the 94th minute. It was just like, but we'd win that league. That was in March, but the league was over. The league was over beginning of March. We knew it. We knew we were so far ahead. But it was, Chris always said, keep the hammer down, keep winning games of football. You know, become a habit. You know, it becomes a habit. And every team then starts wanting to take it off you. They start trying harder. We just pop them off and we end up winning games, you know. But the scenes, the fans, unbelievable. We just said with the season wrapped up in the middle of March, and then we just enjoyed the last season. But we enjoyed it. We're still doing the right things. We're still winning games of football. We're still guarding against our records. Teams are not going to score against us. You know, it was great. And even when we did win the league, we were down at Exeter, and we'd get promotion the week before, guaranteed promotion. Then we're down at Exeter. And my last 3 games, away games, was Exeter, Yeovil, and Portsmouth. You know, we were saying if we're in a championship winning team, if we need to go to these places in sort of the latter weeks to win something, then it'd be difficult. But we'd already won it anyhow. So we're down at Exeter, and we're waiting on the pitch. And with 0-0, as I said, it was a drab game. But that's what they say. They say strikers win football games, defences win championships, don't they? That's what they say. We like to say anyhow. And we were waiting at 1-0, and we're waiting, and Oxford were playing. Suddenly the crowd all came running on, and that was it. So seeing the guys a couple of years previously that were crying for the saving the club, knew these guys were tears of joy and everything like that. You know, they could celebrate after the year that they might have not had a club, but now suddenly they're on a pitch celebrating everything like that. And you know, it was great because Jamie McAllister was down there, Maka, who I knew from my time at Aberdeen, and they get beers. Exeter gave us beers and everything like that. But it was brilliant. See, after that, it just became, there was nights out all the time. It was just, but we still win games. We still win games of football, believe it or no. We weren't kind of too big for our boots. We just sort of said, we worked and we played. You know, we really went for it. You know, when we went out, and when we worked hard. When we played the game of football, we really played it. And it was just a unique team. Everything slotted into place for us. And, you know, and referencing the away trips to Yeovil, and then latterly the last game of the season down at Portsmouth, you're just, you know, on the bus, it was like a Wenger bus coming back up the road, you know, just like beers and everything. But that's been winning games of football, even, you know. And I'll give you, I know we touched on Chris, but this is his man management. We're going to play Portsmouth. There were 7,000 Northampton fans going down to Portsmouth last day of the season. So we're sitting in the pitch we'd just done a practice match on the Tuesday. And then about half an hour, we went, right, listen, just call it. You're like, oh, somebody's done something. You know, the manager stopped saying it's a wee bit sloppy, and I sat down and kind of shouted over to the tunnel, and these big 3 or 4 crates came out and opened it, just all beers. He said, listen, guys, sit, take your boots off, training's over. You know, we play Portsmouth, we get 7,000 fans, league's won, you know, brilliant. You've had your trophy day against Luton. You know, we get a trophy a few weeks prior. You know, look at this, it was a glorious day in Northampton, but at that time, boys were car sharing and all that. And they're like, what do we do now? Do we kind of kick on? Do we have because he's looking at us to say, you better take one, but you don't want to be drink driving. So suddenly boys are saying, right, well, we might need to get a travel lodge or a Premier in to stay over. And it was just, we touch a class, you know what I mean? For Chris, you say, listen, go and just relax, you know what I mean? The hard work is done. You know, if you irrelevant, if you win at Portsmouth, if you don't, it's not going to deter a good season you've had. But we still went down there. We had our beers in the middle of the pitch and still went down there and turned them all 2-1. We had the famous pink strips on that day and the colour and all that. Summer's day down there, absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant. Yeah, after that, obviously, Chris gets the Sheffield United job and Rob Page comes in. How did you find him?
I liked Rob. He came in again, and we knew Chris was supposed to go to Charlton, and then his beloved Sheffield United had come in for him, and you know, he went there, and Rob comes in, and I got on really well with Rob. But similar again, like to when I made my debut, a new manager's coming in, and I've been in a championship winning team. I played a large part in this. I want to play League One football now. I'm not just going to get promotion for somebody else to come in and take my position. So that really upped the ante for me, and I really went away, worked hard, showed Rob what a good player capable of playing. You know, we signed players, signed Matty Taylor, Alex Rubell, Paul Anderson and players like that, and players that on loan from championship clubs, and probably for me not good enough, because they've always been in academy football. When they come down, this is League One football now. Even harder down at League Two. But it's a shock to the system. Rob had probably known a few, and that's probably led to his downfall. Got these players, from Swansea, obviously being Welsh himself, got these players in, just couldn't cut it, No, as I'm saying, no streetwise, don't know the changing room, nothing like that. So he came in, he kept me in the team, loved every moment of it. We started off the season well from the previous year, didn't lose a game, beat West Brom in the cup at home, managed to score. That set up a tie against Manchester United. And then we lost against Chesterfield, and then it was a Manchester United game. But it was good. But I always remember going back to the United game, and it was a big furore that Man United are coming to town, and Rooney and Zlatan and Carrick and Herrera and Rashford and Memphis, they're all coming. But I was that wee bit older. I'm starting to look at the other side of the game and say, well, it's only one game. There's 46 games within a league. So even then, I was like, but they were saying to me, you've got to enjoy it. Stop being a damn squib and all that. And I said, but this is only one night. See, tomorrow it's gone. But our league status, we need to be picking up in the league and stuff like that. There's a bigger picture. And you know what happened? Suddenly, everybody in the lead up to the game, Monday and Tuesday in training for the United game, everybody's firing all cylinders. It's the training standard got that. I look at that again. I go, how's it not like that all the time? Why are these players just turning it on now because they've got a chance of playing Man United, and then suddenly they're not in the squad and they go back to their own ways. See, the following season they're out the door and not playing sort of league football. They go to conference or Conference South or whatever. So that's sort of the makeup of what we had and what we'd signed, and ultimately that led to the sort of downfall, I think, with Rob.
And then obviously Rob gets sacked and Justin Edinburgh comes in. Did you enjoy your time with him?
Yeah, as I said, unfortunately Rob gets sacked. He said I was playing my mask at the time. Plus, I had fractured my cheekbone. Rob done everything for me, really looked after me, get the best sort of surgery and everything like that. But yeah, unfortunately he gets sacked. Justin comes in and he just steadied the ship. That's all it was, because at that time we were in a survival mode. That's what we had to be in. Yeah, we're sliding in the league. We were sort of getting beat heavily. We were leaking goals. We couldn't find a formation, change a manager. It was just a combination. So basically, it was just survival. He met the target. I played every time under him. Managed to get Player of the Year at that year as well. So my time was good. Proving myself again, the fire in the belly. But as I said, Justin came in, steadied the ship. So I just play on, but my mind was sort of wandering to say, listen, it's 3 years at this football club now. I think I've done all I can. And that subsequently kind of led to where we went next. Yeah.
You went to Mansfield with Steve Evans. What was your time like there?
Oh, I loved it. I was speaking to him yesterday. Steve, a character, absolute character. I'd known my time was kind of going over at Northampton. That was my own decision. I needed sort of a freshness about me again. 3 years I'd learned for that episode at Aberdeen where I had to move. Where sort of my stock was a bit high down there, and so I'd commuted all my time from Derby to Northampton, and then Mansfield was just sort of 10 mile up from Derby. And Steve, anybody that knows Steve, just a huge character within the game. Talks a really good game. His Glasgow slang and his twang and everything like that. I gave him a bit of stick at times, but we met at East Midlands Airport. And I think we spoke maybe about 3 or 4 hours, honestly, just talking about football, your upbringing, your players, the leagues and all that. Just stories. If I told a story, he would tell a story. But it was just on suddenly, geez, we need to move on here now. And then suddenly, are you coming to me? Aye, okay, right, out the door. It was just like as quick as that. It was absolutely fantastic. Went up there, met him. I was doing my coaching courses down there, and I went up to him on the Friday. And the formalities were the offices weren't at Mansfield, the actual signing one. So his assistant had to go. I'd done my medical. He's like, all right, big man, right, come on in. And they sat with his feet up on his table. And he says, what get my can of iron brew. He said, his fridge was absolutely stocked with iron brew. He says, I see these, Steve swears a lot. Right. You see these English and all that. I said, they don't know what that is. Look at that. I need to get that sent down to me and all that, and But just a brilliant. I love them. Big character, big presence. Made me captain down there, and you know, I was struggling a bit with a wee bit of injury. Beginning with, it was good. Loved every moment again. We went to Malta pre-season, and he demanded standards, but it brought me in. It sort of kind of raised those standards. However, you've got to players to buy into that. And Steve's philosophy is, if you don't buy into that, you're out the door. But you can't tell that to kind of half the team. You know what I mean? So it's like, boys like, well, who's he going to get in now? But it sold the club. That was the thing. It was a project to try and get Mansfield. Mansfield were going big this year. That's why I'd hired Steve the previous year. Yeah. The best bus, the best. No, we were in suits. It was like, we went to Crewe in the first day of the season, and we came off the bus in suits, and Crewe are walking in like with tracksuits. But that was Steve's standards. Steve had seen that with Sir Alex Ferguson, and we Crawley teams, and went like, no, that's good. So that was his principle, fine. But Crewe were sort of like, well, who are these guys? And in their minds, are probably saying, we're going to turn them. Or who do you think they are, turning up with blazers and the grey trousers and stuff like that? But his standards were high. You know, he barked. You know, and if you weren't doing something right, you know, one or two get an ear bashing. Some of the boys would turn to me at half time, who'd walk out. What did they say there? What did they say there? I don't know what he said. He said, if you don't get your finger out, you'll be out the door. And that's would you call it making it easy for you? He said, but he was just effing and blinding and all that. I said, that's Steve, you know what I mean? Everybody knows him, bro. But he gets the best out of the players. Similarly, in his way, he get the best out of the players. I didn't mind that. I didn't mind somebody barking orders like that. The sort of new generation didn't like that. So it was all like, I'm not too sure about that. Suddenly players start getting under. You don't see them. No quality players at that level. And suddenly, no for me. But you've got to kind of know the makeup of your manager or who you're going to sign for before you actually sign. So yeah, as I said, enjoyed my time under him. And when he left, we were sort of in a good position. We were in a really good position. But that kind of sort of fizzled out when David Flitcroft came in, and then suddenly my injuries sort of took a bash, and then suddenly from there on it was sort of like, you know, a downward spiral.
And did you just feel that you couldn't play anymore? Did it just get, when did you kind of realise that it was time to kind of give it cold time in your career?
I realised it probably, you know, it's going back and revisiting it again. I almost hate talking about it, but it's like one day just in training, you get a bang, and then suddenly a bang turns to like niggles. And I'd pull my hamstring at times. I'd never put my hamstring my whole career. I never had a hamstring injury. And then I get injections into my back, but that didn't release nothing. And then I was still playing on top of that. Then my calf would go. You know, I mean, everybody knows your back is down to your hamstring, down to your calf, and everything like that. So I'd do my left hand side. I remember we played Chesterfield, which is a huge derby down there. It's like an old firm derby down there. It's really, really like hostile on that. And played there. We beat them 1-0 and we had a couple of days off. So you had to look after yourself and everything like that. And second day I was just a wee bit sore. So went in with a couple of days off, and in trained on the Wednesday and the Thursday. Yeah, Wednesday and the Thursday. I went in the Friday, and I said, listen, we're playing Portvale on the Saturday. I said, I can't train today. I said, I can't move. I can't lift my leg. And when I was walking, I was lying in the sofa on the Thursday night. I said, my leg was just drooping all the time. So something wasn't right. So you get put to the pool, you know, go and loosen it off and all. And I'm like, this isn't right. There's something no right. A pool doesn't sort this therapeutic nonsense. So that evening, as the day wore on, I was getting sorer and sorer. And then I remember leaving the bed to go into the spare room. I was physically crying into my pillow. My back was just absolutely, it was like my nerves, my discs, whatever it was. I was getting, my wife came in and just said, are you all right? And I was not that way. No, you wasn't get a pain. You're crunching the pillow. You're like that. You're like, no, I'm. This is okay. It's all right. I'll just get to sleep. No, I couldn't get to sleep. I had to phone the paramedics, and that was probably the beginning of right. Okay, this is major. There's something no right here. And I had paramedics, and we just had my first daughter, and 3 months old. No, 6 weeks old, and you know, my wife's holding the baby, and the paramedics are in, and seeing me squirming about, and I was like, people don't see that side of it, and I'm like, it's not worth it. But the problem was, I couldn't get a scan until the Wednesday. So I just went out and got a tens machine and everything that it came with. And see, more and more at the days wore on, the more and more it was getting worse. Then I couldn't do the toilet right. I would get up to go and push, couldn't do that. Back to bed. Then I was on like codeine, I was on tramadol, I was on every drug that you sleeping pills. So I wasn't sleeping well, so wasn't eating well. Ended up losing about 3 or 4 kilo within that 5-day period because I just wasn't eating at all, suffering, crying, probably an hour's sleep each, give or take, per night, over that, just a zombie. The problem was again, the Spire Hospital was in Nottingham, so we were in Derby, rush hour traffic. So I'm actually climbing the back seats to, I said, can you operate me on here now and then? No, I had to come back on Friday. So then again, back through the traffic, right through back to bed again, facing the pillow. Do you know what I mean? It was just a horrible, horrible time. Went in, got the injections on the Friday, released everything. I was like, oh my God, it was just incredible. And then suddenly went back to them and they went, listen, you're going to need to get operated on. The injections will work to sort of just pinch the nerve and everything around it, but you need operated on. I said, right, no bother. I'm saying at the time, aye, that's fine. Get put in the transfer market off David. Didn't really see eye to eye with David Flitcroft, but, we put in the transfer market, but then found out I had to be operated on. So I'm like, well, that's fine. So got operated on, and the way the surgeon said to me, he said it's like shaving the disc. It's laser surgery. It's no opening your back, it's laser. He said, but I've never done this on an athlete. He says, I've done it in like an everyday person, He said, but for an athlete, I'm not too sure. I said, well, I don't want my back opened. I'm not interested in all that. I don't want that. Just try and do that. So we got it. I felt absolutely great. Worked hard throughout the summer to get myself back. Went in and I went to jump the last part of rehab. Done all my gym work throughout the 6-week period throughout the summer. Came back. I said, okay, we'll try to agree something with Mansfield to get, move on to another club. And, I'll be fit enough. And then went to jump to do some heading. And suddenly it was back to the same feelings again. And I was like, and it was the first time I probably cried. I said to my dad, I phoned him and I said, I think this is the end. But I couldn't get the words out.
Nice.
And I went to my wife. She was in the park with my friends with the young babies and all that. And she just kind of looked at me and she knew I was in a lot of pain. Suddenly back to the surgeon again. He's like that. He says, I've told you, you know what I mean? He's a great surgeon. He said, he was just very honest. And he went through it again. He said, we're going to open you up. So went and got opened up. So this time I had a corset on for 6 weeks. Couldn't lift the baby. Wasn't allowed to lift the baby. Nothing like that. So I missed all that time. Just lying. And what you're saying about what happens next, you're just staring at a ceiling watching football. It's pre-season. All the games are on the telly. The freshness, the fixtures come out. You weren't even given a toss about the fixtures or anything like that. You weren't caring or what's happening or anything, And at the time, you were missing out, the baby stuff, obviously, as well. Back to the surgeon. I said, I feel great now. I said, listen, you need to really calm it down. Fire in the belly. No, I'm back. Went to the gym to do rehab. Within the first day, I knew then. I just looked and I said, no, my body's no the same again. It's going to be, I need to look at myself. I need to look at the bigger picture. Again, back to the surgeon. He actually took it out with my hands. He said, listen, and he looked at my daughter and he went, because at that time it was only the three down there, so one drove, we had the other one. I had to watch the little one, and he looked and he went like that. He said, you need to stop. And I knew then, and suddenly that was the end of it. So the formalities, probably at the time you didn't really know formalities and contracts and everything like that. You were still sort of in a haze and a bubble and all that. You're saying suddenly you're one day a professional and suddenly it's out with your hands. That's it. It's just as quick as that. as quick as you get your debut and you play, it's bang like that, and it's gone. So it wasn't just that. It wasn't just like a day. It was a kind of 6-7 month period where if you say February was when it started, and then I quit in October. It's a hell of a long time in between to be battling.
Definitely. See, obviously after that, did you have a plan for what you wanted to do after football? Like, did you have kind of plans in place, like before you thought you were going to retire?
Yeah, well, I said to you about the coaching side, I started, once I hit my 30s, I started to look at managers and scenarios. And we gave a few as we spoke there. well, like referencing the Man United game, it's only one game. It's stuff like that. So writing sessions down, really showing an interest in the video analysis, going and sitting with the guys, the interns when they were in at the football club, sitting with them. How do you cut that? How do you do stuff and all that? What do you look for? What is your actual job? Go and speak to the assistant coach. What's a normal day? It's stuff like that. Do you ever switch off? What is it? No, so 101 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Probably latterly at Mansfield with Steve, looking at his methods. How to get standards, how to get players playing for you. Fitness coaches, what these drills for. Obviously everything I've accumulated as a player, it worked for me. So how can I go? And what my side of my career is wanting to be a coach stroke manager.
Yeah.
If I can do it, then how can I use that? Take wee bits, write wee notes. What have you learned? What would you not use? Stuff like that. You want to be your own person, of course you do. But I think everybody would be lying if they say, listen, I'm my own person. Somebody shapes you or molds you. Small things. Jimmy helped me. Mark McGee helped me. Craig Brown helped me. Archie Knox. Chris Wilder. Gary. There's always wee bits you can take. Then you become your own person. But there was a long period of time where I wouldn't say I fell out of love with football. I just sort of the way it ended and the way it started all brilliantly and everybody's on a happy to see soon as you end it. Nobody's sort of there for you. It's only you, only your family. It's there for you. You get a couple of texts, phone calls, and it's true what they say. Your phone stops a wee bit. It's no longer. Because after I'd retired, there was interviews right, left and centre, and suddenly then it was Christmas. And then after that, we had to move back to Scotland. So you're still sort of caught up in it. But then suddenly we came up to Scotland and said, right, what next? I started my B licence. I just needed to be assessed down there. And my back stopped, so I couldn't get out in the grass and practice. So then I had to come up here and resit it again through the Scottish FA. And then obviously the coronavirus has hit, so we're just waiting for assessments and everything that comes with it. But I had an idea that I wanted to go into that side of things. I love helping others. I love talking about the game. I love speaking to ex-players, their experiences and when we played and talking about old stories. But seeing the kids develop, I love that side of it. I want more. I love at the 16s, but I feel as if I can go up. I love learning my trade there. But the plan is to sort of really see where I'm at, test myself, because the first day I went into Queen's Park, I was nervous as anything, really nervous. Well, 101 things, they're only 15, 16, but they're judging you straight away.
Aye.
So my plan of action was get a good club up in Scotland, because I've been away for a hell of a long time. You can become forgotten, which probably, which you do become. So you come back and people say, oh, aye, and suddenly you're the Aberdeen player. You played at Aberdeen. So suddenly people start being refreshed. You get into Queen's Park, I meet an old coach like Gardner Spears, who was my youth. So sort of familiar face again. Get out to coaching courses and see familiar faces. Down England, there's 1,000,001 players. There's hundreds, but up here it's like, it's small as a nation, but we all talk to each other. And that's a network. You build your network again. That's probably the most important thing that I had to do, was build my network again. Yeah, I've been away for a length of time, but not only away from Glasgow, probably not only away from Scotland, Glasgow I've been away from a long time. I left Dumbarton / Glasgow when I was 16, 17.
Yeah.
So I've returned. So I've been away for a hell of a long time. So there's a hell of a lot of changes actually throughout the area as well. So it's tapping into it, going speaking to managers and all that when I've been back up. And I've loved every moment of it. And we all want it to lift the ban and everything like that. But I just love going out and coaching and seeing where I'm at and testing myself, taking yourself right out of your comfort zone and seeing what you can do this side of the game and pass on sort of bits of knowledge that you got.
Brilliant. Are you all right closing some quickfire questions, Zander?
Yeah, fire in, yeah.
Your whole career, who was the best player you ever played with?
Oh, there's been a few. One-off games or I answer that. One-off games. If I one-off games, you probably say Ibrahimovic. I played against Gerrard and that, but I said probably Zlatan. Just for him. I read his book, My Honeymoon. I know it's quick fire, but I read his book, My Honeymoon, and then a couple of years later, I was playing against him. Just a man now, and the standards that he set. I think Herrera was going to get to a throw and he's shouting at him to get it done quicker. They're 3-1 up a cold night in Northampton, but still demanding, because he's made that movement. So Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Brilliant. Best favourite away grounds you've played at?
You can say the European game. Anfield,
brilliant. Interesting fact about yourself that nobody else would know.
I don't know whether to reveal this one, but it would be probably funny to end it. I was supposed to be a Rangers supporter growing up. So I cried. My mum tells the story that when I was a young boy, I cried the shop in for a Rangers shirt, and my father said no. So if I'd got my way, and maybe a wee bit of light-hearted, but if I'd got my way, I might have been a Rangers supporter. But there we go. My father got his way, and I became a Celtic supporter.
Favourite film and TV show?
TV show, got to be Line of Duty, isn't it?
I know,
it's just coming back on.
Buzzing for that.
Absolutely brilliant. Favourite film? I watched one recently, and it's The Three Kings. Brilliant. Shankly,
really
Busby, and Steen.
Yeah.
Just because they're into this process of football now. That recently one, I thought that was a fantastic. And I watched the Kenny Dalglish one, was also brilliant. But The Three Kings.
Brilliant. Best player you played with?
See, I love Sevy. I love Scott Severin as a
He's
player.
He's really underrated, isn't he?
100%. He could right foot, left foot. He could head a ball. He could tackle. He could throw a ball. It was like, he could even do that. He was a man. He was brilliant. Brilliant for me. We lived in the same village as well in Aberdeen. So yeah, probably Scott Severin, underrated, but highly important to your team. You missed him when he wasn't in your team.
What's he doing now?
I'm not too sure what Sevy's up to. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if he's back in Edinburgh or he's still in Aberdeen. I'm not too sure about that.
Brilliant. Best friend in football?
Oh, the loopy goalkeeper, Derek Suter. Absolutely bonkers. Talk to him every single day of life. I talked to Derek. We're on a WhatsApp group. He was at my wedding, everything like that. Went on holiday to Santa Ponsa together. He was the only guy that said he claimed he'd a broken ankle in Santa Ponsa. He fell over it. You say fell over it. He was dancing and he tripped. And his ankle's up like that. And he's sitting at the pool the next day and it's up like that. And I'm talking about, he's saying to the waiter guy, I need ice and all that. And the guy comes with like a pint of ice. Is that for your Magners? No, I need to blow my ankle. And he's like, oh, no tonight. He drinks a few later. He's back up. He's running around the pool. He's dancing again in the pub that night and all that. Then the next morning, he's back at the pool. I need to stop that. This happened for 5 days. 5 days solid. And his ankle was like, I think he'd broke it to. It was a yawn size. But Derek Suter, he said he'll be a pal for life. We share so much stories, and he's trying to say to me, if you get a job in football, I'll be a goalie coach and all that. I said, I'm not too sure about that.
Brilliant. Final question: best manager you played under?
It's a no-brainer. It's Jimmy Calderwood. Chris Wilder pushes him, but for what Jimmy done for me. And I would throw Jimmy Nicholl into it. I can't have one without the other. But they two guys done for me, I'll be forever in their debt. And as I said, I talk to them most weeks, and they come on the phone. We can speak. If it's 1 hour, it'll be 3 or 4 hours with Jimmy Nicholl. Just talking about football. The phone is just over Christmas there. We're putting a wee bet on. It was the cup final with Celtic Hearts, and we're still up. I think the phone went at 11 o'clock. We were talking, and suddenly it was 3 a.m. Just talking about football, and it felt like 5 minutes. So real football people, real honest people, and great people.
Brilliant, Zander. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on the show, mate. I can't thank you enough for joining me. I've really enjoyed it.
No, well, it's been absolutely fantastic. I love going down memory lane. We spoke so much. Hope not too much of your time, but no, it's been enjoyable.
Really enjoyed it.
Really good.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks very much indeed.
No problem. Anytime.
Get better real soon. Yeah, I'ma just do me, you just do you. I swear it's gonna get better real soon. Don't let anyone tell you what you should do. I got a clear view. We're gonna make it soon. Just keep pushing through.